Hello, everybody. Welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Friday, the 30th of January, 2026, and that means we are almost done with the first of, well, 12 months, last I checked, of 2026. So we're one day away from 1/12 of the way through this year. And, you know, look, it's going to be a rough year with the RAM prices, solid state prices, GPU prices, and, you know, it'll be over before you know it. So we've got a lot of other things to look at and a lot of alternatives to consider in ways that you can save money and still get an upgrade or a new PC this year. And that's where today's review is going to come in from our budget-friendly Nemo laptop manufacturer, who should not, as far as I can tell, I can't think of any good reason why they're not a household name here in the States, with a 2-year warranty and a 90-day return period, and lower prices than pretty much anybody else with solid build quality. I'm just trying to raise awareness. You know, the price of these laptops now, this one in particular, and a lot of mini PCs will about double by adding RAM and storage. If you can buy them without the RAM and the storage, you can cut the price in half. That's how crazy things are getting. And it will get worse. It's predicted it's going to get worse. So the laptop itself, cheaper than ever. And if you already have RAM and storage laying around, this is what I'm talking about as an example of how you can kind of outsmart the system here, kind of work through areas that the general public isn't taking under consideration, and be completely happy, not feel like you sacrificed anything. Now, when we're looking at the budget machines, you know, these aren't for gaming. You could do some light gaming on it, but that's not what it's intended for. And you know, those of us who don't have a lot of money can't be that picky regardless. So with all that in mind, that's what we're going to look at today. A shout out to our friend Buster, Mark Gaines, and Lou Greenia, all of which submitted contributions prior to the show starting. These are our regular contributors here, and along with everybody in green, all of our members. Thank you guys, because you know, we don't get paid to make these videos except by you guys. That's pretty much our source of income. We do get a little bit of commission from Amazon, and basically we can talk in an unbiased way, unfiltered. We can say what we want when we want, and we're under no restrictions on the products we review. Sometimes we buy the products with the contributions we receive, so we're free to, just like you, just buy the product and speak your mind. In this case today, Nemo, they sent us the laptop, and when we're done with it, we send it back to them, which is great. We actually prefer that, because it takes a lot of burden off of us from having to store it or trying to find a home for it, or potentially running into the additional administrative work that would go into the legal it's a maze if you try and give something away in a contest. Oh my gosh, people have to be in certain counties where, you know, or can't be, where it's not allowed. They got to be over 18 years old. If they're under 18 and you don't know about it, there's all this trouble you can get into just for trying to do something nice. So not to mention all the time, administrative work that takes, and any support calls that come in as a result of you giving something to somebody. Now they have a problem with it and they expect you to fix it. Anyway, so this takes a lot of burden off of us, and Nemo doesn't pay us. They just send us the laptop, we review it, we happily send it back, and they've got a lot of different machines to look at. So if today's laptop, the one we're looking at today, doesn't meet your needs, be sure and visit their website and take a look at all the other laptops they make, from 15-inch and 17-inch screens to Ryzen and Intel processors, from budget to gaming. And we've covered many of them before. I don't know how many people are tuning into this video for the very first time, but we are a live community. Sometimes people watch these videos after they've aired live, and they dismiss the community. They don't get it. It goes right over their heads. They go, wow, this guy talked for 2 hours. It took him a half an hour to unbox it. It's like, because we're part of a community. It's like sitting down at dinner with your family, and you're like, we sat down at the dinner table 20 minutes before dinner was served. I don't advise eating here. It was never about the dinner. That's what some of the viewers don't get. But they would get it if they would join us in our live chat. So let me just put this out there. If you're watching this after it airs live, and you don't get it, you don't see what the appeal is, it's because you weren't here in our chat room interacting with me and each other. Not very many YouTube channels do this, so I understand why people don't get it. They've never seen it before. So we would love to have you join us, be friendly, and hang out during a live video. And your experience of these videos, when you experience them live and you're a part of it, is very different from just tuning in and watching it later and not really understanding what you're watching. And that's what makes this channel different. And we have the most amazing community and the most supportive community anywhere on YouTube, probably anywhere on the internet. So what happens is people pop in, you just say hello, and then friendships happen. And people will come back not necessarily for the content, but for the community. And that's really the strength of where this channel lies. And so for people that are just looking at the content and they're ignoring the community, not only do they not get it, it's profoundly rude. It's like walking into somebody's home family dinner and saying, hey, where's the food? You say hello. If there's anybody there you don't know, you introduce yourself, you might make new friends, and then before you know it, there's the food. Like you were enjoying yourself in the conversation, and the food was just the icing on top. I don't think that's the right terminology, unless you're eating cake. All right, with that, I want to thank our friends over at VIP-URCDKEYs. When I have to buy, wrong button, Carey, when I have to buy Windows and Office for my clients and my real life business, which YouTube is just an extension of, I need to find a legitimate seller that's selling me real keys, that's going to support me if I have any problems, and is going to offer it at a price that is very affordable and competitive, because I can't sell computers at MSRP price of Windows or Office. No one will buy from me. I would be way too expensive. So it's like, well, how does Dell do it? How does HP do it? They buy bulk license keys from Microsoft. In an exchange, Microsoft won't take any support questions. If it's a Dell or an HP or Lenovo or a big OEM manufacturer, you are to go to the manufacturer for any support, period. Whether it's the hardware or the operating system, it all goes back to that manufacturer. Since Microsoft is being relieved of that burden, they discount the software. And because it's being bought in scale, big bulk, like shopping at Costco, they get it very inexpensively. And that's effectively what our friends over at VIP-URCDKEYs are doing. Very similarly, buying large quantities of bulk legitimate licenses, no differently than Dell and HP or Lenovo, but they're able to sell them one by one. Now, I can tell you this, there is no difference that you can tell between an MSRP key bought from Microsoft and a key bought from our friends over at VIP-URCDKEYs, except the price. And they're about 90% cheaper than what Microsoft wants. 90%. So if Microsoft wanted $1, you're going to pay 10 cents. That's how much of a discount there is. And you think, well, there's got to be a catch. Well, the license keys can only be used once. That's it. So if you ever have to reinstall and reactivate for Office, well, you know, that may have changed now that I say it out loud. Maybe because Office is now requiring a Microsoft account, it should carry over. And Windows, the license key ties to the motherboard. So unless you change your motherboard, you can reinstall Windows all you want. You don't even have to put the license key in. It'll automatically reassign it. But there have been issues where people have bought a copy of a piece of software, and then when they went to use it, found out the key was already used. That's like buying a gift card at your favorite department store or whatever, and then when you go to use it, you find out somebody already used your gift card. That's not on the gift card manufacturer. That's on you for waiting too long. You gave an opportunity for someone to guess the numbers and use it. You've got to get there first. But you don't have to worry about that with VIP-URCDKEYs because they got your back for 6 months. I mean, if you haven't used the key in 6 months and you're calling about it, they'll still do their best to help you, but they're also going to kind of be very skeptical that you're not trying to pull a scam, because this is a very suspicious behavior. The world we live in right now is that we don't know what sellers are trying to scam us, and we don't know which buyers are trying to scam the sellers. It's both. Just try selling on eBay someday, or Facebook Marketplace. You know, how many people have been taken advantage of. So I'm just here to let you know about VIP-URCD keys. It's where I get my keys. They take PayPal. That's another important thing a lot of other online sellers don't do. And they got your back. So it's not a commission-based link if you choose to buy it or not. I went to bat for you guys to make sure that you could get the keys the same place I get them. You pay the same price I pay. You get the same support I get. No other business tells you where their sources are. Come on. I am very unique in that. And I hope that if you ever need a Windows or Office key, that you'll just pay once and be done once instead of risking buying a cheaper key online and finding out it isn't what you thought it was. There's no support, you get ghosted, or you got to wait days for a response. But it's your choice. I'm not twisting your arm one way or the other. I'm pointing out, if you're thirsty, there's clean water over there. If you don't want to drink it, don't drink it. You want to drink the mud over here and you think it'll be fine? That's your risk. I'm not telling you not to. All right. And a super shout out, of course, to our friends at VIP-URCD Keys, because they don't have to make that offer. There is a 25% off discount code. It's Carey. So if you want to pay 25% less than what everybody else pays, you'll do what I do. Click on the link of the product you want, enter the coupon code of Carey, and you will pay exactly the same price that I'm paying. That's it. That's the honest truth. So I put that out there for you if you ever need a key or know somebody who does. With that, hello to everybody joining us here in the chat room. And let me say hello before we get things started. It looks like we've got Crayons in the chat room and Tony Aindow saying hello. There's Eddie Casanova, Mark Baggett, Mark Gaines. I also see Sam, F2000, Luke Greenia, Scott, Eddie Casanova, Andy W6AD says hello. I also see John Skinner. The Mopar Gamer. Oh, the Mopar Nerd. Yeah, time for some new glasses, Carey. It's about that time of year. Let's see, there's Buster saying hello. Always good to see our friend Buster from Scotland, where the temperature in Edinburgh right now, 39 degrees Fahrenheit, he says, 3.8 degrees Celsius. Sounds a little chilly. I also see Katrina H, Jim Kenny, all saying hello here in our community, in our live chat, interacting with each other and with me. Thomas Mac T, 3D Everything. Did I say Scott? Tim Davern. John Rogers. Just trying to get caught up. Bear with me here for a second. Delman 2000 says hello. Adis Blue says hello. Welcome in, everybody. Dazzle 555 joining us in the chat. Now we are live and worldwide, and what that means is some of the products I'm going to show you will be at different prices or not available at all, depending on where you're watching us in the country. Mark Gaines in Northern Ireland, and Andy in Ireland, not Northern, just regular Ireland. Is it regular Ireland? Buster's in Scotland. We've got folks in Australia, Canada, Germany, Brazil. The point is we have viewers all over the world. I'm in the US. I very rarely ever get out of the US, so I don't really know what's going on in the marketplace in other countries. Keep that in mind, all right? And of course, if you have questions about acquiring a product in your country, you could always reach out to the manufacturer directly, because they might have ways, I don't know. You'd have to ask them, I don't know. When it comes to the United States, I can answer your questions. Stay in my lane. So today, we are looking at the another Nemo laptop. We've seen a number of products from them, and I've been very impressed. The quality and the price is unmatched. And I don't understand how they're making any money. Because quite frankly, you'd think if you went on to AliExpress or somewhere, that would be the cheapest price you'd pay. You'd get no warranty, really. They say you've got one, but do you? It's kind of like buying at a garage sale, sort of as is. And they'll say there's free returns, but have you ever tried to return anything from AliExpress? It's got to go all the way back to China. It's not very practical, and it's not very inexpensive. I think they allow 1 or 2 free returns, and after that, you have to pay. How is it possible that a company that has headquarters, they have an office here in the United States in Delaware, can sell these laptops for less money than AliExpress with a 2-year warranty and a US shipping depot should you need to send it in for repair? Excellent support. And while the components are all made overseas, the final assembly, some of the assembly, is done right here in the United States. So for that reason, they are partially assembled here in the USA. So all of that sounds like it should cost more, and yet if they can do all of that and charge these prices, which I'm going to get to in just a minute, why the heck, how much money is AliExpress making? I understand Dell and HP and Lenovo have a lot of overhead they have to pay. I get that. They're obviously going to have to charge more. They got more expenses, and they've got a marketing budget. I think one of the reasons people haven't heard of Nemo is this is a small company, and rather than spend money on advertising, which I'm sure they do, we just very rarely, I think you'll see advertising on social media from them, but not like on commercials on television and such. Because if they paid for all that, they'd have to then charge more for the laptop. You understand that somebody that has to get paid for somehow. Now, I don't just bring on any old products here with the enthusiasm of telling you about how reliable and inexpensive they are, unless I've had an opportunity to evaluate a number of machines from that manufacturer. Otherwise, if it's a brand new, the very first Nemo laptop we got in, I was very skeptical. And then the next one and the next one, and now I'm very confident. I know what to expect from them. And I know that when we have any issues, they take care of it right away. And many of you in the chat have mentioned you bought Nemo laptops, and some of you had a problem. And everybody that reported a problem, I think there's 2 or 3 people, said it was resolved very, very quickly in all cases, regardless of the differences in the problems. And if those of you who are in the chat room now and you want to share that story as a reminder, just to let viewers know, I'm not making this stuff up. It's easily verifiable. Furthermore, even if you think this whole thing is a conspiracy, that I'm somehow a shill for Nemo, I do genuinely like their product, and I do believe you're not going to find a better price for what you're getting from any manufacturer anywhere, including AliExpress. 90-day returns if I'm wrong. Now look, if you order it from Amazon, it's still 30-day returns. But if you order from Nemo, they give you a full 90 days to send that back. And on top of that, a 2-year warranty, which is twice as long as most others. What are we looking at today? I'll be honest, I'm very unprepared because I like to keep these as genuine and authentic as possible to not, have any rehearsals or anything. All I know is it's a budget laptop at a really good price. Let's take a look, because that would describe pretty much every Nemo laptop is a really good price. And when you say it's a really good price, you'd say, well, it's a budget machine. Even when they're high-end machines, they're still budget when you talk about how much they cost compared to the competitors of similar specifications. So let's grab the window capture and let's take a look over at Nemo's website. Now, the links that I'm showing you, they are in today's video description. If you click on the video description, you'll find the links for VIP-URCD keys. You will also find the links to Nemo's website and this laptop, as well as the equivalent link over at Amazon if you're more comfortable ordering at Amazon. Now, if we just start at the price, looking here on Amazon, again, no rehearsal, I'm just reacting to this genuinely. I'm seeing it for the very first time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that says $249.99, and then there's an additional 5% off, which I can't click on without signing in. So 5% is half of 10%. 10% would be $25. Half of 25 would be $12.50, and then $12.50 minus $249 would be 227, something like that. Basically, a little over 10 bucks off. Think of it that way by checking them out. So now it's at, let's say, 239, just to round it up and keep it simple. But here's the problem. At that price, will you get any RAM? Will you get any storage? In most cases, the answer is no. In most cases, you'd have to put your own RAM and storage in. But in this case, they're not going to give you much at that price, but they are going to give you something. So 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gig solid state drive. This is an Intel N150. That's your budget line. This is ideal for regular home use, student work, even light office work, like if you're doing Word, Excel, emails, doing research on the web. If you're remoting into work, things like that, that's a crazy low price. Now look, you can get it with 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gig of storage. So 4 times the storage and 4 times the RAM. And you can see what a difference that makes. It more than doubles the price. But you could also put your own RAM in there, and you can put your own storage in there. It's not soldered in or anything. You know, this isn't Apple. It's definitely not Apple when it comes to the price. And they do make it in multiple colors. So here we're looking at a blue. This is a traditional black. This one is gray. This one is red. I always wanted a red laptop. I don't know why. Where's the red? There it is. And then this is rose gold. I'm looking at the colors right down here. So anyway, you know, you've got a numeric keypad on there. I don't know if the keypad lights up or not. It uses a Type-C charger, so you don't have a proprietary power supply. Oh yeah, it says it's a backlit keyboard right up here in the description. Even a fingerprint sensor, just like your phone has, if you want to use that instead of password. I mean, you still have to set a backup password, just in case. Maybe you cut your finger and now the fingerprint sensor won't work. So you always have a backup password. But so long as the fingerprint works, then the password's just a backup. It's got Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2. That 2-year warranty. It's a 15.6-inch screen, pretty standard in laptop screen sizes. Overall, you know, I can't believe that's $250. Now, they have a number of other laptops here. But I kind of was just showing you Amazon because I wanted to show you it's available. But if you want that 90-day return window, then you want to buy direct from Nemo. And Nemo more or less has it at the same price, that $239.99. Nemo also offers, what is it? Shop pay. So you're looking at 4 installments, 4 interest-free installments if you wanted to finance it. And then you would pay a certain amount per month depending on what you put down on it. So the difference here is it's a little bit, it's the same price, but this would be 0 gigs of RAM and 0 storage. You'd be on your own. So it seems like the price is a lot better deal over at Amazon. You'd think it would be the other way around since they have to pay Amazon a commission for every item sold there. So I can't explain why companies do this. It's a marketing thing, but you would get the extended 90-day return period. But I do believe that if you can't figure out if you like it in 30 days, I don't know what to tell you. It sounds to me like if you can't make up your mind, it sounds like you like it. Because that's what I'm trying to say. The 90 days is an extraordinarily long return window. And if it's worth that peace of mind, consider the little bit of extra you're paying as you're paying for insurance to be able to return that triple the amount of time. And then if they say if you subscribe to their newsletter here, you can get an additional $15 discount. But with the cost of RAM and storage today, $15 isn't going to really make up the difference in my opinion. And I'll tell you something else I really, really like about Nemo. If you want to buy an extended warranty to take that from 2 years to 3 years, it's $40. It's a very reasonable cost. Now, I don't think it's necessary on a laptop that's under $1,000, but it's up to you to decide. in their accessories. This is where a lot of big laptop manufacturers gouge you. If you have a name brand laptop and you go to the website trying to buy a new power adapter, it's probably around $100 on average from large manufacturers. With Nemo, $19.99. That may be even cheaper than your cell phone power adapter being sold on Amazon. That's how aggressively priced they are. And yeah, that charger, that's a 65-watt charger. That will charge your cell phone as well as power your laptop. That is just a typical USB-C 65-watt charger. So the idea that they're even selling the accessories at bargain basement prices, how are they doing this and staying in business? How are they making any money? Your guess is as good as mine. So there's a little bit more to the specifications about the operating system. It says Windows 11, but it doesn't say Home or Pro. We'll find that out. 3.8 pounds, there's the dimensions. It's still a 3.2 gigahertz computer. These N150s are limited to, I think, 16 or 32 gigs of RAM. They're just going to have one stick of RAM. There's no dual channel option on that type of a CPU. It's a budget CPU. So it is limited in how much RAM you can have and single channel only. That's across the board. That's how it is. It's not something unique with Nemo. It's just what you get when you're in that CPU range, in the budget CPU range. Yeah, it says it'll go up to 16 gig. It may be possible to put a 32 gig in there, and it may even show it, but the CPU can't really use it. So it'll all be a placebo in your head. And quite frankly, 32 gigs of RAM now probably cost as much as the laptop. So I wouldn't do it. I mean, we'll see how it runs with 4 gigs. You might be surprised at just how capable 4 gigs are, depending on how fast the NVMe drive is. With the NVMe drive at 128 gigs, I don't think it's going to be very fast. And with the RAM at 4 gigs, don't expect a speed demon out of this. I do believe a faster, larger NVMe and at least 8 gigs of RAM would make a performance boost, but this computer is not about performance. It's about a working in-warranty computer with a beautiful screen and a great keyboard that's backlit with Wi-Fi 6, all under warranty, that's going to get you online reliably, and something you're not going to have to continually fix or deal with broken hinges and all the other things you might be dealing with now because you think you can't afford to replace your many years old computer you're using now. This is for you. If you're not in that category, but you're looking for something for the kids or you're looking for something to tinker with, this here is a great little like lab computer or even a garage computer because you don't have a lot invested in it. It's great that you can kind of beat it around without worrying about, you know, jeopardizing your investment. So it does fit a lot of different categories of user. Well, they do show a game. Yes, you could play some games on this, but let's face it, gaming is always, even worse now, it always has been an expensive luxury where you must have the time and the money to both buy the games, buy the computers capable of playing the games, and have the time to play the games. I don't know how you do all three, because quite frankly, if I'm working, I don't have time to play the games. And if I'm playing games, I'm not working and I don't have any money to buy the games. So it's kind of a catch-22 of life. It's great when you're a teenager, right? But as an adult, especially as you get up into your 30s, that's a very difficult thing to maintain. Scrolling down a little further, we see we've got a micro SD slot in this, which is a nice touch. USB 2 and USB 3.0 Type A, along with a headphone jack and a Kensington lock. Coming around the other side, we've got a Type C USB port here that's only for charging. You can't use that as like for a flash drive or data retrieval. We have another USB 3 Type A and HDMI out. And this is your USB Type C. And that functions, and I think you can use it to charge. I don't know why you would. You should be using this one. And then save that one for hooking up to a monitor maybe, or a flash drive, something like that, an accessory. And then finally, you just have an LED that lets you know the state of the charge. Of course, it's got effective heat dissipation, but it shouldn't be getting that hot to begin with. It's only an N150. That's another benefit of the lower end processors. They don't run as fast, so they don't run as hot, so they're not as challenging to cool. Partially assembled domestically, 90-day free returns, 2 years of after-sales support, 24/7. And then we've got some reviews here. But, you know, these are on, let's face it, these reviews are on Nemo's website. Let's see the reviews on Amazon's website. Look at this, over 105 reviews, averaging 4.5 out of 5 stars. Look, if this thing was a perfect 5-star, I'd say, something suspicious. But there's got to be some people out there that are impossible to please or didn't understand what they were buying or had a bad experience and didn't handle it correctly. Because any quote-unquote bad experience that I've had with Nemo, when I brought it to Nemo's attention, they went out of their way to correct it. So it sounds like somebody was intolerant, that instead of reaching out for help, they just got angry and wrote a negative review. And on top of that, if they bought it at Amazon, they'd return it for a full refund within 30 days and get every single penny back at no expense. So how could you possibly be that angry to leave a 1-star review? That's what I'm saying. There's some crazy, unreasonable people that are completely intolerant. I expect to see them in places like Amazon. And if I don't see them, I'm suspicious. So it does make me feel better that these are real review averages. And you can see that 5-star line is a lot bigger than all the other lines. Something for you to think about. You interpret it however you want. This is how I see this. This is when I'm looking at products, I definitely want to see some negative reviews. And I'll generally look at them. And they're almost always people that aren't reasonable people. All right, there's no law that says you have to be reasonable when you leave a review. Let me get back over to camera 1. And I'll jump over to the chat room real quick before we start the unboxing. David Graham says, does it have 2 RAM slots? There is no such thing. Just so you know, David, if an Intel CPU starts with the letter N, N95, N97, N100, N150, N300, think of it like this. The N stands for no second slot. These are budget CPUs. AMD budget CPUs will still support dual channel. That's one of the ways that AMD competes with Intel. But they generally cost more. So when you're looking at this price point, you absolutely cannot be looking at those kind of details, expecting anything beyond the bare minimums. So it's unusual to me that when you're reaching these bare minimums, that you still get it over the top warranty and over the top support. And the very fact that you're getting this much computer for that little bit of money is the wrong thing you're looking at if you're somebody who wants to open it up and upgrade it. This, I mean, apart from maybe doubling the RAM and you know, put whatever storage you want in there, it doesn't make any sense to me personally. I would not advise a customer to spend more on RAM and storage than they did on the entire computer. I mean, that's just me. I wouldn't spend $500 on a car and then $1,500 on tires and rims to put on it. It doesn't make sense. But just so you know, all Intel N-based budget CPUs have 1 RAM slot. They don't support more than 16 gigs. Even if you could put 32 in it, even if the machine will say it sees it, it won't use it. It's just tricking your brain. Don't waste your money. And if that's what you want, don't buy a machine like this. It's not for you. Okay? That is universally true on any computer sold by any manufacturer using an N-based processor from Intel. You won't see a cheaper price, and you also won't get dual channel memory support. Sam says it's a nice price for a basic laptop, but to be fair, in 2026, Windows 11 uses 8 gigs of RAM. Just watching this video. That's true, but what people don't seem to understand about RAM is they're carrying over, especially on the internet. It seems like older people who think RAM still works in computers the way it used to. And the way RAM used to work is the more RAM you added, the faster your computer would go. But it didn't affect the computer being able to run. In other words, if you want to bring up a YouTube video with 4 gigs of RAM, 8 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of RAM, the video still opens and plays. It's not like the laptop's going to crash on you. In the olden days, before the solid state drive, we all used mechanical hard drives. They're painfully slow by comparison. So what ends up happening is when you would need more RAM in the early days, it would write a swap file to the mechanical hard drive. And because of how slow a mechanical hard drive is compared to the speed of RAM, RAM has always been super fast. Even in the old days, comparatively speaking, RAM was fast. Faster than pretty much anything else in the system as far as data went. So it's creating virtual RAM on your storage drive. And then your storage drive is going at 200 megabytes a second, let's say, or back in the day, maybe even 60 megabytes a second. Today's NVMe drives go anywhere from 3,500 to 13,500 megabytes per second. So when you're swapping RAM to a modern day solid state drive, the difference between that and the speed of RAM itself is far less noticeable. So what I'm trying to get at is RAM doesn't prevent you from running anything. The more RAM you have, you can still run everything you ran before. You can still watch YouTube videos. It's now going to take any additional RAM it needs and create virtual RAM onto the solid state drive, which is going to happen very, very quickly. Some people who have a lot of RAM don't even need to use virtual memory, and they can actually disable that and save wear and tear on their solid state drive. But even that's a misnomer, because solid state drives are about 10 times more reliable than mechanical hard drives. So they're well over 10 times faster, upwards of 50 times faster. They often cost less money, well, depends on the model, and have a longer warranty. Many NVMe drives have a 5-year warranty from the drive manufacturer. And very few people have ever killed an SSD. It's so unlikely, but when it does happen, just like when a plane crashes, you'll hear all about it. But it doesn't happen that often. And if you believe the internet, you'd think it was something we should all be concerned about, when it very rarely ever happens. So we have a more reliable, faster storage. So when we're swapping memory out, it's happening so much faster than it used to because of the solid state drive, that the difference between having the additional RAM and using virtual memory, having RAM is still faster, but not by as much as I think, that you think. The N150 CPU is not a racehorse. Let's also talk about that. Putting more gas in your car will not make your car go any faster. Let's be clear. It's pretty common sense, right? And yet, putting more gas in your car, how much does a gallon of fuel weigh? You're adding weight to the car. So if you have an empty tank, your car's probably carrying around several hundred pounds less of weight everywhere it goes, improving your performance. It also improves your gas mileage. But you fill that tank up thinking, hey, I got a whole tank of gas here. You're carrying around all that additional weight of that fuel, which is going to slow the car down as far as acceleration. And it's also going to affect gas mileage because it's now burdened with more weight of the fuel. So more doesn't necessarily make sense. It depends how you use it, okay? And if your goal is to buy a Prius, but you want to know how to make it go faster, don't buy a Prius. But if your goal is to get great gas mileage and put out less emissions and have a car that doesn't cost a lot of money, the Prius would be an ideal choice. There's nothing worse that I can imagine than when I'm driving on the freeway and I see a Prius passing everybody at 90 miles an hour. Do you know what mileage a Prius will get if you just drive it 90 miles an hour? It'll be about 13 miles per gallon. The Prius doesn't magically get gas mileage. You have to drive it like a normal person in order to get those mileage ratings. And if you want to drive it like a hot rod, you're going to get the mileage of a hot rod without any of the performance. So don't complain about what you bought. Make better decisions that align with your particular values so you don't have any buyer's remorse. That's all I'm trying to say. But this idea that you can predict, just based on the fact it's got 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gig, that it's not going to be fast enough? No, it's an N150 CPU. And yes, adding, going to 8 gigs of RAM will make a difference, but I don't think it's as big of a difference as you think. Those days are pretty much long gone. Once we got rid of mechanical hard drives, the virtual swap files, they're so fast now. The idea that you need more RAM, there are very few examples where that's actually justifiable. It's mostly an emotional, psychological twist that people pick up from enthusiasts online. And it's very much an old school, outdated mode of thought, except when people can actually justify it. So usually the people who justify it are people that are using their computer for profit, or people that just have a lot more money than the rest of us. And they want to play their video games in 4K, and I don't know, they're very demanding people. And a lot of rich people I know are very demanding too. They don't have to make a deal. You're going to do it the way they want it, or they're going to find somebody else to do it. They're not everybody, but I'm saying the ones that I've seen that do that, the people who are wealthy get what they want because they're paying for it. The people who aren't wealthy, who are that demanding, they go without because people just walk away. They'll say you're unreasonable. So think, look in the mirror and how am I coming across? Am I coming across as being demanding and unreasonable? If you've got the money to back up those demands, you wouldn't be buying this to begin with. It's not for you. Just food for thought. I'm here to show you a specific model. It's up to you to decide if that model's right for you. And if those are your thoughts, does it have dual channel, only 4 gigs of RAM? I can tell you right now, this is not designed for you, but they do make other models that are, and they are more expensive. Sam says it's amazing people can purchase an entire laptop for under $250 regardless. That is my point. You get it? That's what I'm trying to get across. Buds of Wisdom says, doesn't the DRAM and non-DRAM also play a factor on whether the NVMe SSD is faster though? No, there's an appearance of faster, meaning the amount of DRAM and SSD would have is basically a cache. And cache gives you the impression things are going faster when they're not. I mean, from your perspective they are, but what's really happening is all the same speed. There is a condition of also potential data loss on an SSD that has DRAM. Should it lose power unexpectedly and it has not flushed the cache out onto the NAND, you've lost that data permanently. So it's not actually, this is a difficult thing to explain because from a human perspective, it appears measurably faster if it has DRAM on the SSD. And if that SSD has power loss protection, you're going to be safe on an unexpected power loss. But price those. You're going to pay a lot more for them. So because you have a cache, it's giving you the impression things are going faster. But your write speeds haven't changed, and your read speeds really haven't changed. Unless what you're writing or reading to is to the cache, which is very temporary. It's not a permanent thing. So it's very difficult to justify that. And furthermore, it's almost like you want to ask me about certain kinds of tires, and I'm showing you the cheapest car you can buy. A brand new car with a warranty, and you want to talk about tires. It's like, no, this is not that. This isn't something that you're going to walk around the cheapest car, brand new, that's manufactured and supported with a warranty, and then turn around and complain it's low horsepower or it doesn't have a big enough trunk, or that the tires that are on it aren't high mileage tires. You can add all that, and you can spend 2 to 3 times the entire cost of the car if you want to. But if I were you, if you were my customer, I'd tell you, don't buy that car. Other people should buy the car, but you shouldn't, because if that's what you're thinking, if your first thought is, how do I make this go faster? You should not have bought it. You should have bought something else that was already faster. Period. It has nothing to do with Nemo. It has to do with the classification. Stop looking at budget entry-level stuff if you're not looking for budget entry-level stuff. If your thought is, I could save money, you're not. You're going to spend twice as much. If your goal is to get it out of entry level or budget level and get it more into mid-range or high range, it's cheaper for you to just buy it already made as mid-range or high range. Plus, you don't jeopardize potentially your warranty or potentially break the thing trying to improve something that's brand new. If you have to improve something brand new, you've made a bad purchasing decision in my mind. If I sell somebody a computer and that customer gets that computer and immediately opens it up and starts working on it, that's the equivalent of me being a professional chef. I have cooked a perfect piece of meat to your exact requirements. You want it medium rare, you're going to get it medium rare. It's perfectly seasoned, and before you've even so much of taking a bite out of it, you've grabbed the ketchup. It is profoundly offensive. So if that's what you want to do, go make your own steak. Anyway, it's a perspective I have as a builder. It kills me when somebody says, oh, I just got the computer and I opened it up and I took it apart, and I'm like, why? I built exactly what you asked for. If it wasn't what you wanted, if you wanted something changed, why didn't you have me do it? Why did you undo all of my work? Why did I bother putting all that time into it for you to just undo it? Why did I waste my time? And then it leads to, you know, well, now I'm having a problem. Oh, okay. It'll make you not want to sell to customers anymore when customers do that stuff. Anyway, you know, they have a right to. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. It's just really offensive and unnecessary. But people are going to be people. Planet Cryo says, yeah, you're not going to see much of a difference anymore starting. Oh, no, that's not what he says. He says you're not going to see much of me anymore because I'm starting a new job soon and I'm not going to be a member. Plus, PC building has gotten way too expensive, but do take care. Well, of course, we're going to miss you if you go, and we understand life changes and you got to do what you got to do. And, you know, whether you're a member or not, we still hope from time to time you'll pop in and say hello or leave a comment, because we sure will miss you if we don't see you. So I hope we'll at least get to see you from time to time. And I do hope that turns out to be very successful for you. And then when it does, hopefully you'll be back and, you know, things will change again. But I appreciate the heads up. David Graham says, I can't wait to see how that 4 gig of RAM does on this laptop. David, you just can't seem to get past the N150, can you? That's where your thought should be, the N150. Because again, there's only so much RAM you can put in an N150. That in and of itself, that's your bottleneck. I'm telling you. It can only go so fast, no matter how much RAM you put on it. Yes, 8 gigs of RAM from 4 will probably make a slight difference. I'm not debating that, but it won't be as big of a difference as I think you're thinking. My goal here is to make sure you understand what I'm showing you, that you have reasonable expectations. And your first expectation should be, what other laptop can I buy brand new with a 2-year warranty, with a 90-day return policy for under $250, brand new, regardless of processor, regardless of RAM, even if it didn't include RAM or a CPU. That's what I want you to focus on. What are you comparing this to? Compared to what? I am curious how this $250 laptop compares to an $800 laptop. Well, I'll tell you right now, it's not rocket science. The $800 laptop's going to perform a lot better. But if you're comparing this $250 laptop to another $250 laptop, that's a discussion I'd like to have. Anything else is pointless, because we can solve all these problems with money. But what we can't do reasonably is expect we're going to get an $800 laptop for $250 brand new under warranty. I would suggest this laptop should be $400. That's how much, if I was Nemo and this is how I equipped it, we would be no less than $350 at the very lowest. I don't even know how they got it this cheap. And it seems like if this laptop was $2, some of you in the chat room will say, that's not enough. What can it have a faster NVMe? Can I add more? It's so inexpensive. How can you not appreciate just how much you're getting, and instead you're focusing on more? It's like it's never enough. I honestly think this laptop is severely underpriced. With that, that's just my thoughts. Just telling you how I feel. You might feel differently. Okay, let's take a look at the Nemo. This is, I'm looking for a model number on this. I know Mara has placed it in the title. Okay, on the side, what we've got in front of us is a customized version. And when I say it's a customized version, remember I said they're partially assembled here in the United States? So what it looks like they've sent us is a fully upgraded version, meaning the one here, according to the sticker, is not a $250 laptop. It's not the one it is the same make and model. Everything about what I showed you is the same. It's still the N150 processor, but they have put 1 terabyte SSD in here instead of a 128. So we've got 10 times more storage. And we've got 16 gigs of memory, which is the maximum you can really put in here. Again, you could maybe trick it into 32 gigs and even get the BIOS to see it, but your N150 won't use it. But if it makes you feel good to spend all that money and see numbers, don't let me get in your way, but logically, scientifically, factual-wise, you're wasting your money. But if it makes you feel good, I got no facts for feel good. Feelings are different from facts. So if that's what you want to do, have at it. So I'm just curious now that I realized we have 16 gigs of memory and 1 terabyte. That means we won't be testing the 4 gig version of this. Let me jump over to Amazon again because I'm curious. They sell on Amazon the 16 gig 512 gig of storage for $400, $399. And if we look at Nemo's website, let me go back over to Nemo's website. What we're seeing here, get back over to my window capture. What we're seeing here is a bare bones model at $239. So definitely the price at Amazon's a lot better. But the other thing is 8 gigs of RAM. Oh, here, 16 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte. That's what we have. So you see how that doubled the price? Same exact computer that I just showed you for $240. But with 16 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte or Western Digital NVMe drive, it's now $499.99. But everything else still applies. Same warranty, same return period, etc., etc., etc. Apparently this combination isn't at Amazon, but that's how much RAM and storage are adding to the cost. That's why I can't emphasize enough what a bargain this is. So for those of you curious, how is it going to run with 4 gigs? I guess we're not going to know because that's not what they sent us. They didn't send us the bottom of the barrel. But if you take a look at the other way around, this is the best it can run. So if you max this out and you put 16 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage on it from the factory, it will not run any faster. There's nothing else you can do. That is maximum. So just maybe change your mindset a bit that we're going to be looking at the most it can do instead of the least. You can see I've never opened the tape on this. This is my first experience with it. And this is the N157 is the model. Okay, unboxing the Nimo N157. This is a budget entry-level laptop. And I'll tell you what I love about Nemo, having worked with, reviewed other units, is I love how it's no-nonsense packaging. You know, you're paying for all that excess packaging that have the unboxing experience, and it's all going in the landfill anyway. So it's not good for the environment. It's not good for your wallet. Look at the way Nemo packs this. It is everything it needs and nothing it doesn't. So when I'm spending my money, I like to buy things I need. I try to avoid buying things I don't need. I mean, look, having fun in life is great if you can afford it. But also having tools that I can use to make my life easier it also brings me some joy too. So look inside the box. We have 2 pieces of styrofoam that are protecting the screen, regardless of which way the laptop's put in. So if during shipping, the shippers stack boxes on this and they squeeze it, you're not likely going to get a broken laptop. It's a great touch. Same is held true for the corners. And if we just slide it out now, what I'll do is I'll take these 2 pieces of styrofoam and I'm going to just put them back in the box. You know what else is in this box? If you look way down here, we have some documentation. And finally, right here, there's a little box, and that's going to have your power supply and the power cable. Very similar to your cell phone. It's going to be a little power brick and a USB-C cable. It's probably about 6 feet long, and that's all there is. No unnecessary trash, marketing materials, none of that. Nemo doesn't do that to their customers. They don't sell their customers like the big manufacturers do. So I'm going to put all this back in the empty box because that's all there is. Everything that's laid out in front of you is everything you need and nothing you don't. No coupons, no ads, no filler. No filler. Let's see, what color did we get? Looks like we got blue. These are super easy to open up if you do want to get in them. It's one of the other things I like about Nemo. I can't say the same for some of the big brands. They can be very difficult to open and they don't want you in there. This is your power brick, which is going to look exactly like a cell phone power brick. And a lot of manufacturers don't put their name on their power brick because they don't make the power brick. And it can be difficult to know which power brick goes with which device. So I often have to get a Sharpie marker out and write it down, because if the power brick were to get separated from the device, you could completely toast the device by putting the wrong power brick on it. So what I find interesting is not only does the power brick have the Nemo fish on it, it's USB-C, which you can't really screw up anyway. You could grab any USB-C. As long as it's 65 watts or greater, you're good to go. There's no risk of harming it. So on the power brick where it doesn't matter, this manufacturer adds their logo. And if you lose this or you want another one, even if it's not for the laptop, you might want it for fast charging your phone. 20 bucks. Find one on Amazon that's 65 watts and includes a cable for 20 bucks. It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense to me. How can they afford to do that? And then this is the USB-C cable. I'm guessing it's 6 feet. I actually don't know how long it is, but let's take a look. It's just USB-C to C. This should be a charging cable only, not a data transfer cable. I've not verified that either, but that's what I would assume. So they say your arm length tip to tip is your height. I'm going to guess that's about 6 feet. And let's plug it in. We'll turn it on and see how it runs. Over here on the side, you see the same USB ports that I showed you from the website. And then we've got, I don't know how well the camera's going to pick it up, but there is a red light, a very tiny little pin light right there in red It's telling us it's charging. And I would guess that either goes off or goes green or blue when it's charged. And the first thing I would do before I use anything with a battery is charge the battery up first. In the case of a laptop, you can go ahead and turn it right on because it'll still charge the battery while it's powering the laptop at the same time. There should also be a little piece protecting the screen from the keyboard in here. I've seen people keep this little piece because over time, when people carry the laptop around, they don't realize they're squeezing it. They're pushing the screen down on top of the keyboard, and over time it leaves marks across your screen. You know, how did that happen? So I've seen some people keep the little piece inside of here and put it back whenever they travel with it. That's too much work for me, but I do admit it seems to work, and they have a very nice unmarked screen. And there's the piece I'm talking about right here. I normally just toss that with the packing material, but if I were you, I would keep every bit of packing material in the box during your return window. Just in case something happens where you need to send it back or you've changed your mind, you will need to send back everything you paid for. If you want to get all your money back, you got to give everything back. Now, don't worry about the little plastic bags. They don't care about those. I'm talking about the styrofoam, the box. The more you can put it back the way it was when it was new, the greater the odds you're going to get every penny returned within your return window. If your return window has since passed, if you've owned this more than 90 days, say you bought it from Nemo, at that point it's safe to throw away the box because you're probably never going to need it again. The idea that, oh, I'll save it because it'll have higher resale value. This didn't have high resale value when it was new. Throw it away. Throw away the box. Hey, you do you, okay? But I'm just saying that's just the way I see it. When we look at the front of this, we have a very nice finish. That's our fingerprint reader, that little square right here. We've got our Intel Inside sticker. That's what makes it go faster, not the RAM. And we've got a power button, and then we've got 3 little pin lights right here that will show us our caps lock status, power light, and what's the other one? I'm not sure. We'll turn it on and find out. A lot of the really high-end laptops, if you look at like the Dell XPS series, they're not giving you HDMI ports anymore. You can break it out through a dongle, but I don't want to carry all that stuff around when I'm traveling. I love that this computer still has an HDMI port on it. Now, normally these HDMI ports are not active until Windows loads, so you can't get in the BIOS with it or anything like that. So let me turn this on. Let's go through our first boot up together. You've seen me unbox it. You know there's no prep here, so what are the odds it gets damaged in shipping? The odds are so low that I am so confident that today's shipping, the way they pack things and how well they make things today, I can go live on camera and assume there's not going to be any problem. It's very rare, like once every 3 or 4 years, we'll get something damaged in shipping. It just doesn't happen like it used to anymore. And therefore, I'm not really feeling like I'm taking a risk by turning it on for the very first time and unboxing it live on camera. And you should feel just as confident if you're ordering one. That anxiety of, is it going to work? First of all, if it doesn't, you'll just send it back, whether it's Amazon or Nemo. They both will take it back, exchange it, or refund you, whatever you want to do. But the likelihood that you're going to have a problem right out of the gate is probably based on the likelihood of you have a local delivery driver who likes to drop kick packages to your front door. Maybe they don't like you. But if I don't have your carrier, or I haven't upset the carrier, I don't have these problems. You wouldn't want to insult the chef until after you've eaten your meal. Just a little tip from your Uncle Carey. All right, so I'm going to plug in an HDMI port since we're at the Windows setup screen. I want to be able to share that because the reflection is really bad.
To set up your device using a screen reader, turn on Narrator by pressing Windows plus Control plus Enter. For more accessibility features, press Windows plus U, or select the accessibility icon in the bottom corner.
Okay, HDMI cable, we're going to plug that in. It's always got to be the other side, right? Of course. Well, that's all right. I can turn this around now so I can see it. And then I'll come over here and we'll turn on the capture card for this laptop. Here we go. And hopefully, no video? No? Make sure I plug my cable in all the way. Well, that's a bit of a surprise. So here's what I'm going to do instead. I'll try my best to walk you through it. Let me try. Maybe we got to get to the desktop first. Let's go through this together. I got to put it sideways so we'll both see it, because I want to share this with you. Because this is what you should expect if you order one. Exactly what I'm doing. Have you seen my videos before? As most of you have, you already know how I'm answering all of these questions. Now, right away, it's got the Wi-Fi that it wants me to connect to, and there's no option to say I don't have internet. So what I'm going to do is hit Shift F10. Maybe I have to hit function. Is there a function key? Shift F10, that's not working. Function, maybe it's function, Shift F10. And that opens up this command window. Now, if I start typing, nothing happens. That's on every computer. You have to click this window to put it in focus. Just click once, and then when I type, you can see it starts to type. So a lot of people have said bypass NRO doesn't work anymore. I want to see if that's true, because we use Rufus to create a Windows image for our installs where we don't deal with this. But what if it's preloaded from the manufacturer? Let's find out live right now. We'll type OOBE, out of box experience, backslash, bypass, N like Nancy, R like Robert, O like Omega, enter. I'd say that function still works. So listen, there's a lot of misinformation online, and I want you to be aware of real experiences that you have, not experiences other people claim to have had, because we don't know how deep their understanding goes, and that they might be doing something that's causing their own problem and blaming the computer for it. So we're happy to help you if you have any problems, but what we don't want to do is have an argument over gossip. I'm not interested in what other people have to say. I'm interested in what you have to say. I'm not interested in other people's experiences, supposedly. I'm interested in your experiences, right? I'm showing you my experience. I'm not telling you about other people, not usually. Because talking about other people's gossip. I'd rather use the information that I know is true, whether that comes from a factual source that we can verify or my own personal experience. And yeah, sometimes my own personal experience is where the error is. The other day, someone asked on yesterday's video, which 2 channels on a quad band Wi-Fi is it using? And I said 6 gigahertz, but online it said 5 gigahertz. And I corrected myself. But after the show, I looked up the Wi-Fi mesh unit we have, and I wasn't wrong. It's 2 6 gigahertz channels. So which one is it? It depends on which router you buy. So both answers were correct. So we're getting back to this
by pressing Windows
exact screen.
Enter. For more accessibility features, press Windows +U, or select the accessibility icon in the bottom corner.
We're going to go through the same setup again, only when we get to the Wi-Fi area, we should have an option now that we did that bypass NRO. Let's see. Yeah, right there it says I don't have internet. That's what we added. We don't want to connect to the internet until after we get to the Windows desktop. This is true even if you built your own computer. And Windows doesn't like to take no for an answer. So it says, but if you don't connect, you're going to miss out on all this great opportunity of us collecting your data. So we're just going to go ahead and tell it no a second time. So you do have to tell Windows twice. Then you get your license agreement, which we'll hit accept on. And then we set up a username, which here I'm going to put in the word user, U-S-E-R. Enter. I'm going to leave the password blank, so when this reboots, it'll go back to the desktop. And then we get our privacy settings. And you know how I do this, right? I just like my location on. It'll set the date and time for us, and always keep the date and time accurate, regardless of daylight saving. But everything else I personally turn off. And these settings can be changed in the control panel later if you change your mind. But I've never had a customer ask me to change this, ever. And that's how I set it up, and that's why I set it up that way. You set it up however you want. I'm not telling you how you do it. I'm telling you how I do it. You take that information and do with it what you will. Now I'm curious if we have a video driver for our HDMI. Let's just see. Not yet. Not yet. So hopefully by the time Windows comes up here, then this will be activated. So this should just take a few minutes. Once that desktop comes up, then I will connect it to the internet. Then I will do Windows updates. Before we go that far though, we'll check and see if we have Windows 11 Home or Pro. It's likely going to be 24H2. It's still a little early for 25H2 to be out in pre-installed laptops. I've never seen one yet. It takes about 6 months from the time that it's released. So if it was released in October, I mean, we've got November, December, January, February, March. It should be March or April before we start seeing 25H2 at the earliest, pre-installed by major manufacturers. Now, if you happen to buy a computer with 25H2 on it, I'm not telling you you can't. I'm telling you what I expect. I'm telling you about my experience. I'm not telling you about yours. Okay? And I don't expect to see 25H2 pre-installed from a major manufacturer until March or April. Me, not you, me. Okay, now we're at the desktop. In theory, this should work. Let's go over to this port and see it's still not working. Well, that's really interesting. Let me unplug the cable and plug it back in again. I think I've already done that twice. And let me unplug it from the back of the streamer. That is fascinating. I'm going to continue to leave it on the screen there for a moment. Let's go back to camera 2 here and then jump back to camera 3. Still no signal. So I'm just checking to see if it's a captured card issue. That is an entirely unexpected problem. This makes it very difficult for me to show you everything when I can't capture it here. So I've got a little workaround for this. I don't know how I'm supposed to get past this. It is live. We're going to grab our little nano KVM here. And what this is going to let me do is it's going to let me access this computer from this one without any software. This little guy. It's like 35 bucks. Oh, but this requires the HDMI port to work. Oh. Well, maybe the HDMI port does work and it's just not compatible with my capture card. Let's find out. This is super easy. It's 2 wires, no software. So USB and HDMI. So let's plug it in and see. So there's HDMI. And now it's also possible I have to hit one of the function keys to activate it. And then this just needs an Ethernet cable. That's going to put it on my local network. So I'm just going to grab a spare Ethernet cable. And then we're going to plug Ethernet into that. Then we're going to come back over here. We're going to go back to our browser. And watch how cool this is, if it works. Let's open a new tab and we'll type in nanokvm.local. And it might take it a minute to find it on the network. Reload. And what this is doing is this is going to create a website for us here on our local network. Let me just make sure all my plugs are in all the way. You know me, I'm often too gentle with them. We're all plugged in. nanokvm.local should bring it up, although, again, it does take a minute to get an IP address from the router and for that to get in the ARP configuration. And just to make sure it's not some kind of a Chrome caching issue, I'm going to open up Edge, and I'm going to try and access it just from Microsoft Edge, just to make sure it's not an issue with Chrome. Nano kvm.local, and let's see, that comes up perfectly fine, which is fine with me. So what I'm going to do is I'll just change the window capture mode to capture my Microsoft Edge browser. And as you can see, I went up to the top here and I typed in Nano KVM local. This pops up. I type in a name and a password. Nano KVM, nano, and let's see if we get video out of this. See, that's the part I'm curious about. Do we get HDMI out? And no, we're not. See, the screen's completely black. So what this has told me, essentially, is that we don't have video output, and it's not because of my capture card. There's no compatibility issue there. And this was my backup way, but clearly, if you're not getting a video signal out through that port, it's likely because the port's not turned on. It's been my experience that when you plug something into the port, it automatically senses that. So let me try pressing a button here. Let's try function F4. No. Function F5. Function F11. Weird. I am missing a step somewhere. Let me come back over to camera 1 because I don't want you staring at a blank screen the entire time. This was worth an attempt. I had to try. But it's not without results, in the sense that we know there's no video output coming out of that HDMI port. So now I can continue with confidence that there's nothing wrong with my cable, there's nothing wrong with my capture card. So let's go plug this back in here. And let's see if I can put myself on the screen along with the lack of video output here. So bear with me for a second, and I will bring down the screen a little bit, like so. And if I get this, you know, if there's a button I have to press, which is possible, then you'll see it at the same time I do. So the question is, which button is it? I'm trying the function button down by the left control key, combined with F1 through F12, just to see if any of that has any effect. And if it were to have an effect, it would be pretty obvious pretty quickly. Like, it does take a slight delay, maybe 2 seconds. So you don't want to just cycle through all the buttons too quickly. Press the button, wait a second, see if something happens. So let's see, F3, F4, F5, F6 and F7 are volume. F6 is muting, F7 is lowering the volume, F8 is raising the volume. F9 appears to be if you want the backlit keyboard on or not. F12 is airplane mode. F1 it says Z, like it's going to sleep. So pretty much F2, F3 look like screen brightness. Your PC can't project to another screen. Try installing the driver or a different video card. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, maybe there's a driver missing. Let's go to full screen on camera 1. This frustrates me because I can't show you. I have to face, the screen has to face me for me to see it. So let me just look in the device manager and see if there's any devices missing. Device manager looks happy, but what does it say we have for display adapter? That's the problem. So the display adapter says it's a Microsoft basic display adapter. And I think somebody who designed this image over at Nemo made a mistake, and they forgot to put the video driver on it. That's why when I first plugged it in, I was expecting to see a display. But at the factory, they failed to put the display driver on. We don't want to see Microsoft basic display adapter. We want to see Intel whatever it is that's built into the CPU, or AMD, whatever it is that's built into that CPU. The Microsoft Basic Display Adapter can fool you because you get a full display. It's just the features, they don't work. Did I mention this laptop also has a web camera? As if you weren't already getting a lot for your money, not only does it have a web camera, it's got a privacy shutter built right in there. So if you're not using it and you close the shutter and you get those emails that say, oh, I turned on your web camera and I watched you. No, it's like I turned on your regular camera with the lens cap on and I watched you. Now with the lens cap on, you didn't. This is a little lens cap. So it doesn't matter if your camera comes on without you knowing or not. Close the lens cap until you want to use it and then open the lens cap. And that's something you'll never have to worry about. But I love that it's built in. It's a great privacy feature. It costs very little money for manufacturers to add a little sliding piece of plastic. And you think on these budget machines where they're trying to cut corners to save every nickel and dime, that would be something to leave out. But I appreciate the fact that they didn't, because quite frankly, it's not adding that much cost. And for that peace of mind, it's well worth whatever few pennies it costs to add that. Not to mention, it even has a webcam. On a lot of laptops in this price range, you don't even get a webcam. So here's the problem. We're missing a video driver. And in order to get the video driver, we need to go online. I already told you I would not go online until I got to the desktop. We're at the desktop. It's okay for us to go online. When the laptops are made this thin, more often than not, an Ethernet jack is bigger than the laptop is thick. So the reason you don't see an Ethernet jack on modern day thin laptops is the jack is this big and the laptop's that thin. How's that going to fit? How's that going to look? So this is Wi-Fi only. Except you can buy a USB to Ethernet adapter. They sell for around $10 to $25 on Amazon. They sell them in 1 gig, 2.5 gig, 5 gig, and 10 gig. 10 gig USB adapters, probably about $100, maybe a little more. And just a simple 1 gig USB adapter, I've seen them on sale under $10. You can get it in USB-A or USB-C, and no drivers are needed. The drivers are built into all versions of Windows 10 and 11. So all you have to do is plug this in to any USB port, because I don't want to connect it to Wi-Fi on a live stream. We'll grab that same Ethernet cable and we'll plug it in right here. Give that a second and the little globe in the corner is going to turn into a little monitor. We're online. Then I can go ahead and visit Windows Update, and I'll bet you we're going to get that missing driver just automatically. I'm not sure. We're going to find out right now. And while we check for Windows updates, we'll take a look at some of the other specs. I just can't share the screen with you when I do it. You'll have to take my word for it. I'm going to hit Windows Update here. Check for updates. And you know I like to turn this feature on here to get the latest. Go to Advanced Options. Receive updates for other Microsoft products like Office. Also to keep me up to date. And I want it to bring up a banner to let me know when an update has installed in the background and it needs to restart, and give me the option to do that now or later, but bring it right to my attention. Those are my personal preferences. The clock is off by about an hour. It says on this clock 1:24. My clock says 2:29, so off by a little bit. And that's simply because we only just now connected it to the internet, and we can synchronize the time and set it to automatic time zone, and that will self-correct either if we budget, kind of nudge it along, or it'll just typically do that on its own. But it's super easy for me to right-click, adjust my date and time, but don't adjust it by hand. This is where people make mistakes. The time zone is usually not set to an automatic. I don't know why. I always turn to set the time zone to automatic. It should determine my location based on my ISP's assigned IP address. And it sure did. It already updated. It says 2:25 at 1:30. So that means either my clock is 5 minutes slow I'm sorry, that my clock says 2:30. This clock says 2:25. So I'm going to hit the sync now button just to make it, force it, synchronize the time. Yeah, now it went to 2:29. Now there's probably just a few seconds between that clock and this clock. So even though it immediately set the date, it would have eventually done it on its own, but I forced it because, well, because I wanted to. But you don't have to. We're going to go back, and as we look at Windows updates, we have a bunch of updates here in the list that are updating. And while it's doing that, let's take a look at what version of Windows we have. And we are getting some Intel drivers here, one of which may be our video driver. Let's right-click, and we'll go to, right-click on the Start menu, and we'll go to System. And I can tell you, yeah, it's an Intel N150 with 16 gigs of RAM, Windows 11 Home. Some people say the bypass NRO doesn't work with Windows 11 Home. Well, then explain what you just saw. How do you explain it? It worked fine. I don't know what's going on with people. Maybe that's the difference between 25H2 and here's the deal. This laptop, worryingly, is not only missing the video driver, but it's also only on 23H2. So that explains it. Never mind. Now it all makes sense. Now, I expected 24H2. I was not expecting 25H2. So again, this is just something we're going to reach out to Nemo. We're going to let them know. The image is missing the video driver, and the image has an 18-month-old version of Windows on it. Anything more than, it's more than 18 months, isn't it? It's 30 months old. That's too old. It's over 2 years old. If it's 18 months, you're right on the edge. But over 2 years, that's an old image. And it might be faster to simply wipe and reinstall with 25H2 than to go through the update process through Windows updates. You can use the Windows 11 installation assistant to skip over 24H2 and go from 23H2 right to 25H2. Or you can just keep going back to Windows Update, do the 24H2 update, which will probably take an hour to 90 minutes. And when that's done, then get more updates and then get the 25H2, and that'll take another 90 minutes. Or just wipe it and reinstall it from scratch. It'll take 20 minutes. It's your call. But I did expect 24H2, and I did expect to have to put 25H2. And to do that, it's just a download. It should just happen automatically, and it really shouldn't take that long. But that being said, I see two areas for improvement on this. That's why I say we're honest and direct. And it's not that companies don't make mistakes. It's how companies respond. If a company doesn't respond or they give you excuses, that's more important to me than anything else, right? So if we have a good quality machine, we got a good bargain of a price, but the company kind of ghosts you or has excuses, I'm not going to be happy with my purchase, me personally, because I'm responsible for the computers I sell to my clients. My clients say, you know, you recommended this to us. Now we're having a problem. We're calling you because you're a computer guy and we expect you to fix it. So if it's a relatively new product and I think, well, I shouldn't have to fix this, this should go back to the manufacturer. If that manufacturer doesn't get back to me or gives me excuses, how do you think that looks to my customer? Because they don't see that. They see me taking forever to fix their problem. They see me selling them something or recommending they buy something that caused them a problem. The whole reason they asked me was because they were trying to avoid having a problem. Otherwise, they would have just made a decision themselves. You think they're ever going to ask me for my advice again? So what I love about Nemo is when we reach out to them and when we talk to them, they're always very quick to respond and provide solutions. What often happens is they're not aware of some things. For whatever reason, nobody told them. We may be the first. Or maybe they're already aware, they've already resolved this. I don't know the answers to any of that, nor do I really care. I provide the information in Nemo, and I say, look, there should be a newer version of Windows on here, at least 24H2. But while you're at it, you might as well make it 25H2. You got to do it anyway. And whoever did it, whoever you paid to set this up to create your master image, they forgot to put the video driver in. And usually the response we get is, thank you for making us aware of that, and we'll ensure going forward that those changes are applied. They're not going to say, well, the reason we did that is because, no. If you were buying it used off Facebook or something, then I understand. But brand new from the factory, it should not have this old of an image. It should not be missing drivers, but not on purpose. It got by them. That's my guess. Never assume negative intent. Never, oh, they did that on purpose. Don't assume that. Most companies are very appreciative when the information is brought to them without aggression, without making them out to be demons because somebody made a mistake. And how can you fix a mistake if you don't even know you made the mistake? You're not even aware of it. So you always approach as though, hey, look, maybe you didn't know, but, and then usually the response you'll get from a reputable manufacturer is, thank you for letting us know. And Mara shows me our new Nano KVM arrived, the new design. Right on, more content. You can set it right on top of the, no, behind you. See the fan on the motherboard? Mm-hmm. Just put it right on top. Thank you. Wow, we got that fast from China. I ordered that on January 23rd, 7 days ago, and it shipped from China in the US, arrived in Los Angeles and into Phoenix. No additional fees or tariffs. 7 days. It wasn't even expected to be here till February 3rd. That was from AliExpress. Looks like my screen went to sleep. There we go. Let me change that setting too. Let me go to Edit Power. Edit the power plan, and let's set this that when it's plugged in, I'll set it for 2 hours. But when it's on battery, if there's no keyboard or mouse movement, then 3 minutes is fine. Save that battery. I don't see a sleep setting here. That's okay. The only reason I'm doing this update right now is I'm just curious if we're going to get the video driver automatically. Now, if I go to the device manager, so let's right click, go to device manager. I'm curious who makes the wireless card in here. Network adapters. Oh, it's an Intel Wi-Fi 6 AX101. Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. You see, I was thinking maybe that's this. No, this is a Realtek 2.5 gig USB adapter. So that appears here, the one I plugged in. This is the Realtek. And the Wi-Fi adapter that's in the laptop is an Intel. Same brand. Wi-Fi 6 AX101, for those of you curious. You know, maybe you want to put Linux on this or something. And then there was one other thing I was going to check. What am I forgetting? We got the Windows version. It is Windows 11 Home. Go back to my Windows Update, see how we're progressing. We're getting there. We're getting there. Oh, I was going to make sure we have a 1 terabyte drive and see who makes it. And the way I do that is I'll go to that yellow folder, and then I will go to the C drive and right click on the C drive. So let's go to this PC. This says it's a 512 gig drive, but the box says it's a 1 terabyte drive. So the box says it was customized and they put this label. Whoever customized this either cloned a 512 gig onto a 1 terabyte, meaning we have 500 gigs not available, or we actually have a 512 gig drive and whoever made the sticker is wrong. That's 3 mistakes. Okay, they're minor ones. And again, by giving them the benefit of the doubt and saying, hey, look, I don't know what they were sending me. I don't know if they were supposed to send me 8 gigs of RAM or 16 or 4. I don't know. It's not like I paid for something I didn't get. But let's just assume I paid for a 1 terabyte drive The box says it's a 1 terabyte drive, but what's in here is a 500 gig drive. Make them aware of it. They will make it right. It's not the worst thing in the world. So long as the response to you is an acknowledgement that a mistake was made and it is expedited to correction at no additional expense, that's the best you can hope for. And nobody is immune from this. None of the other manufacturers are immune from configuration errors. But let me just see what's going on. If I right click on the C drive and we go to properties, and I'll go to the hardware tab, this says we have a Western Digital Green SN350 1 terabyte drive. But if we look, the C drive says it's only 512 gigs. So we're back to whoever configured this. Whoever put the operating system on is the person that they need to retrain or replace. They made many mistakes. One, they didn't put the video drivers in. Two, they put a 2-year-old plus 2-year-old version, 2-year-old plus version of Windows on this machine. That's mistake number 2. Mistake number 3 is they appeared to restore a cloned image without expanding the drive. So if the cloned image source was a 512, it would automatically clone it down to a smaller size drive. But if you go bigger, you have to check a box in most software to enable, there's a video driver, to enable the automatic expansion. Otherwise, you have to do that by hand. So I'll bet you if I go in the device manager, let me close this out. My screen got really, really dim. I wonder if it's because I was playing with the function buttons. No, not yet. They're still not working. Wow, that's super dim. I'm curious. Let's see if our video output works. Let me just check it. Haha! Okay. Yay! So the video driver went in. I'm not sure why the screen is dim, but I also want to wait for the updates to finish installing. So let me go back over here. In fact, let me turn the laptop towards me now, since we can share the screen. And you'll see the drive says total size here. If we right click and go to properties, it's showing basically a 500 gig drive, 498, right? That's 500. But this is a 1 terabyte drive. And I know that because if I right click, go back to properties, which I shouldn't have closed out, go to the hardware tab, and we should see the manufacturer here, Western Digital Green, right there in the model, 1 terabyte. So what's likely is it's just not configured correctly. We right click on the start button and we go to disk management. We should see almost 500 gigs of unallocated space. This should be attached to this, and this is what happens when a clone is done incorrectly. Whether or not somebody's new at this that they hired, and look, we're all allowed to learn, okay? We're allowed to make mistakes. How else do we learn? Some of us become intolerant because we go, well, how could you not know that? Well, how did you learn it? Now, if they're supposed to have already learned this and they're still doing it, we don't know. But if that's the case, then it's time to be outraged. Okay, let's put everything in the right order. So we do have essentially nothing to complain about with the hardware. Just whoever they're hiring to configure these is dropping the ball. Now, I don't know if it makes any sense for me to finish these updates because it does seem like just throw 25H2 on it, you know? But then I'll never learn if there's any other configuration items that are missing if I do that. But that's always an option, just so you know. Once this update is finished, we'll restart. And I can do the Windows 11 Update Assistant, skip right over 24H2, go right to 25H2. And we could do that even if it had 24H2, for that matter. So, yeah, it's just not configured correctly in those 3 ways. Disk is not been configured correctly. the OS is over 2 years old, and the video driver was missing. And you do see up here at the top, it does show the newest video driver was put in. This likely would have happened anyway. The problem is there was no older version of this. So instead of this being an update to an existing driver, it's a replacement for the Microsoft Basic driver. And now if I right-click on the Start menu and I go to the Device Manager, instead of saying Microsoft Basic Display Adapter, which, by the way, you shouldn't be seeing that on your computer either. If you want to check yours, it should not say Microsoft Basic Display Adapter. You may not even be aware of it. The only way I even realized is when I plugged in the HDMI cable and I wasn't getting video out and felt like I should have been. I wasn't wrong. The driver was missing from the factory. Okay, so let's jump back over to the chat because I have not been able to do both what I'm doing and talk to the chat room. And let's see what your comments are. Craig Gasabona with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Craig. Captain Salty with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Captain. Aye, aye, sir. Ahoy, matey. Gary Tatum saying hello. Welcome into Gary. Dustin Fuller says hello. Good to see everybody. I hope you're having a great Friday and a wonderful weekend ahead. We have a great show ready for you on Sunday. We're going to do a new brand of mini PC I've never heard of. Will it be any good? Will it be a good price? Join me on Sunday for a live show. We'll unbox it, plug it in for the very first time, and find out live. Hope you'll be there with me. There's our friend Mitch Morrison. What did the soap say to the bartender? Give me some suds and put it on my tub. Happy Friday. Wow. What was the one I heard the other day? Was that a bar? And she said, every time I see you smile, I want to invite you to my place. I said, oh, are you single? She goes, no, I'm a dentist. They're terrible jokes. Terrible jokes. Good to see you, Mitch. Andy was wondering if there was a D drive. No, it's unallocated. Well, I guess you asked that long before. I'm just now seeing it. I guess I answered that question without even knowing you asked. Let's see, where was I? Andy said, oh, I made that mistake cloning first time I cloned a 512 gig drive to a 1 terabyte. See, that's why I like Acronis. Acronis just takes care of it automatically. Just leave it in automatic mode. You don't have to think about it. Other utilities, you got to check boxes and go through steps. It's a pain in the butt. Dumbman 2000 said thrift stores often display computers or laptops with a GPU as a Microsoft Basic Display Adapter. Well, I mean, I can forgive that from a thrift store, right? Because whoever they're hiring to refurbish it probably just steam cleaned a couch. You know what I mean? They're not computer experts that work at thrift stores, generally speaking. If you have that kind of skill, you could probably get a much better paying job. But, you know, getting it direct from the manufacturer that way is a different story. William Lynn says hello. Edward Bass says hello. Welcome in, guys. Edward Bass. Okay, is this thing done updating yet? No, still installing, 69%. I'm still trying to figure out why my screen is so dim. I don't know what happened. It happened after the driver update, so maybe it needs a reboot. Oh, so the function keys that control the brightness, like F2 and F3 on this one, they're set to the opposite mode, where if I hold function down, then it functions like F2. If I don't hold the function key down and just press F2 by itself, then the alternative mode, which is brightness, is adjusting my screen brightness. So there's a function button here, and I'm used to hitting it for the alternate function for the function keys, but some laptops I've seen it's backwards. So without pressing the function, just hitting F2, the screen gets dimmer. Pressing F3 over and over, the screen gets brighter. The 6 of one, half dozen the other. I don't have a preference. So let's see, the one light is the power light. That's your caps lock light. And probably the last light is num lock. So the 3 lights, remember I was trying to figure out what these 3 lights were up here. From the far right here, closest to this side, that's your num lock. I don't know if you can see that light turning on and off. That's next one in the middle, that's your caps lock key. And the one closest to me, that's the power LED. And then on the edge where we've plugged in our power, here's a little red LED. I'll tell you what, they're little tiny pinhole LEDs. No one can complain that the LEDs are too bright. They're just pinhole LEDs. They're very subtle. Personally, I like that. Okay, do you guys have any questions for me while we're waiting for this to finish up? Please let me know, and I'll do my best to provide any answers. Like I said, we are going to let Nemo know. And in our past experience with Nemo, they've always been very appreciative. They don't get angry. They're not upset. They're the opposite. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how we missed this. We're going to correct it immediately. So they just didn't know. And if you look at how many products they've got in all the variations, it's easy to understand how something can get by you. If they only made 1 or 2 products, you'd say, come on, you had one job. But when they have all these other products, it's certainly more understandable. So not a big deal, but also if I'm ordering, like if I'm just Joe user and I order a new laptop, I expect this to be done for me because I don't have the technical knowledge to know what's wrong. Again, that's coming from me working as a tech. That's what people pay me to do. And so I don't expect any less when I'm paying somebody to do something. Otherwise, I might as well do it myself. But if you don't know how you do it yourself, it's probably why you hired somebody to do it for you. See how that logic works? But people still make mistakes. It's okay. As long as they're not making the same mistakes over and over again, then it's not okay. Our friend Buster's checking out for the evening. Hey, thank you for hanging out, Buster. It's always good to see you. Buster also sent us a very, very generous PayPal contribution before the show, and I can't thank you enough for it. Wow, he's the best. Sleep well, my friend, and I hope we'll see you on Sunday. It's about 9 hours ahead there in Scotland, probably close to midnight. Rosk wants to know, will I ever review the GLINet Spitz AX? I don't know what that is. Let's Google that and see what it is. GLINet. GLINet offers advanced networking, including the Spitz. It's capable of splitting network traffic and managing connections. These devices support WireGuard, OpenVPN, split tunneling. One of the things you'll find on this channel is we don't really talk about VPNs because I think that consumers using a VPN, most consumers using a VPN are wasting their money and don't really understand what a VPN is for. A lot of what consumers use is a leftover from businesses. This whole RAM and storage situation is a prime example. Think of yourselves, unfortunately, this isn't meant as an insult, it's meant as the way the industry is treating it. If you were eating a steak, nice juicy steak, and there's a big piece of fat on it, and you cut it off and throw it to the dog says, oh my gosh, that's the best piece of steak I've ever had, when you're really saving the good part of the steak for yourself. And if you're full and you don't have any room for any more, you take what's left maybe and give it to the dog. Okay, the industry treats consumers like you're the dog. The industry says, what can we do for business? What can we provide them for processors, for CPU power, for faster storage? That's the crux of the finance of research, development, and sales. That will trickle down to the consumers either over time when the technology gets cheaper to make, or it's available to consumers at a very, very high cost. So what's happening right now is RAM prices are high because the AI companies need every bit of RAM that can be made right now. And that's not leaving the leftovers for the consumers. This is telling me it wants to reboot, so let me go ahead and let that reboot. VPNs were designed to protect client data. They're not designed to protect your own data. They're designed to protect your customers' data. If you don't have any customers, I don't understand why you're using a VPN. That's not to say that you don't have a valid reason. It's just highly unlikely. If my office wanted me to remote into work, they would provide me with the access, and that would be a VPN. The company would be responsible for that, not me. When I connect to a client's computer with Instant House Call, that's automatically VPN. Throwing another VPN on top of that is silly. If I'm connecting via Tailscale, which is open source, that is also a VPN. So if I've already got a VPN, and then I'm connecting via another VPN, what I've done is I've just slowed my connection to a crawl under the idea that I'm being safe, when in fact I'm just not being intelligent and understanding exactly what I'm doing. I understand the idea, this is safer, but I'm not understanding it's not safer for me, it's worse for me. But if I was responsible for your data and I was going to transmit your data on your behalf, I would need to do that through a VPN so I'm not held liable for your data being exposed. But when it's you protecting your own data, a VPN is a complete waste of time, and it's just slowing your connection down. So would I review a VPN? No, I don't review them. I think they're a complete waste of time. But if you approach me with a business and you say to me, Carey, we want to have a VPN. Say, why do you need a VPN? What are you doing? Don't tell me what you need. Tell me what the problem is. Let me do my job. Let me find a solution for you. Maybe I'll come to the same conclusion, but I need to understand, how did you get to the conclusion? Who told you you needed a VPN? Well, we want our workers to work remotely during the pandemic. We want to make sure that our remote connection is VPN. All remote connections, for the most part, are VPN'd automatically. TeamViewer, UltraViewer, Instant House Call. They're VPN'd, so you don't need to add another VPN on top of that. Well, I want access to my server at the office without remote access. I want to be able to go to my home computer and I want to log into my file server. You need a VPN. All right, so there's different scenarios where that's the right case. So if I'm talking about the right product, we will never review that product, just so you know. We've never reviewed a product like that. We have no precedence for that. We have no interest in it because it's not for home users. Or it's for home users who don't really understand that, they're buying an idea, but it's not actually doing anything to help them. And especially if you're traveling, the last thing you want to do is slow your connection down. It's already probably going to be slow when you travel. So voluntarily spend money to make it slower under the idea that you're somehow more secure, and the only data you're protecting is your own. I'm sorry, I don't condone that logic. It makes no sense. But there are always exceptions, but they don't represent the majority of viewers we have on YouTube. So even if you were of the of the exception. I still wouldn't do it for you, but I would do it if it had a mass appeal, right? Nothing I do is for everybody. Let's face it. Some of what I do is for nobody, but that's not on purpose. So if we're talking about the product I believe you're telling me about, which I'm just learning about, the reason I didn't know about it is I have no interest or use for it, nor do I have any customers that have any use for it, nor do I know any customers who have any real use for it. It's just an idea. They think it's better, but if you ask the customer to explain to me, how is that better? They cannot. Well, because it's a VPN. That's as far as the conversation. But what does that mean? Well, it means it's safer. Okay, but safer how? Well, you're the tech, right? And I'm telling you that you're wasting your money. Go ahead and waste it, but I will not encourage you to do so. You'll do it without my business or my reputation being a part of that decision. You'll do that on your own. So, but if I've got the wrong device, or you were talking about something else and that whole explanation was pointless, let me know. Ross said, thank you for the info. I haven't used the VPN feature of the Spitz, but it's nice to have for work or power outages, cellular Wi-Fi. See, I can't get behind that either. And the reason is, if you have a modern cell phone, just put it in tether mode. You've already got a data plan, and you can tether it right to you don't need a separate device for that. You shouldn't. And whatever you're going to pay for data, it's probably the same cost to pay for the same amount of data on the other thing. Now you've doubled the cost because now you've got another piece of hardware. You've got another monthly subscription you're paying for when it's already in your pocket, and all you had to do was tether it. And if you're using a lot of data, just pay for the right data plan. It's already in your pocket. So unless there's another part of the story I'm missing, it seems unnecessary. But again, there's exceptions. I'm just going with the defaults here of what is most common. People say, oh, my phone doesn't support tethering. Well, if you'd have bought one that did, with the money you would have saved by not buying the other thing, you could have had a nicer phone and spent the same amount of money and made your life less complicated with one device instead of two, and with one monthly bill instead of two. All right, let me go back to Windows Update. Let's come back over here because we just rebooted. This looks better. Let's see if we're activated. Did they activate Windows? Yes, Windows is active. Okay, so no mistake there. And if we go back to Windows Update, as I mentioned, because this is still 23H2, we'd have to go to 24H2 before we can go to 25H2 when using Windows Update. It's not even, oh, there it goes. It's retry. Maybe not. Seems stuck. So regardless, an option for me, again, most consumers don't know this. That's why I make these videos. An option for me is to download the Windows 11 Installation Assistant. And you say, well, why are you glossing over the whole retry thing? Well, because it's probably still installing updates. Even though it says it's done, if we go down to the Start menu and we choose to restart or shut down, it's probably saying there's still updates going on. You notice that? It says update and restart. That's because it hasn't finished installing the updates. Microsoft does a poor job of explaining this. So while it's still installing updates, we can't check for new updates. So the retry button just does appear, it appears to do nothing. But if you let this wait, and it's saying about 8 minutes, then we can retry. But it's still installing updates right now. So what I'm going to do, regardless, that's why I'm glossing over it. We're going to go start without my data, uncheck the box, continue without Google data, uncheck the box, and we'll type download Windows 11. And the first link that comes up is from Microsoft. We're not going to a scammer's website. We're going directly to the manufacturer. They want you to have Windows 11. and we'll download the Windows 11 Installation Assistant. It's a pretty small download. It's very quick. We're going to open that up. We're going to run it, and we can close this window just to get rid of the clutter. It says to see if your device meets the system requirements, you've got to run the PC health check. So click on PC health check. It's going to download that, a little teeny tiny 13 meg app. And once it's downloaded, we're going to click once on that. Open file. Accept the license agreement. Install. Very quick. Once again, we can close that browser window. Open Windows PC Health Check. Yes, hit finish, and it'll open automatically. There it goes. So check now. Should say it meets the requirements. So go back to the Windows 11 Installation Assistant, which I minimized. Refresh with those results, and now it passes. And we can accept and install. And that's going to bypass 24H2 and put us right onto 25H2. But this could take 60 minutes easily for this whole process. It's usually the downloading can go pretty quick, the prepping can go pretty quick, and then step 3 of 3, it'll go pretty quick right up to about 74%, 73%. It'll do all that in like 20 minutes or less. But once it hits 73% of the install, then it might be another half hour before it gets to 100%. It's not a measure of time, it's a measure of process. So just because it finished the first 74% doesn't mean that from 0% to 100% it's being divided by time. If it says I have 100 things to do and I just did the first 74 chores, then the logic is, why aren't the other 26 chores equally as quick? Because they're different chores. Doing the laundry doesn't take as long as sweeping the floor, let's just say. So it's not a question of time, it's a question of progress. Sometimes you'll see a time remaining, sometimes you see a percentage of how much of the process is complete. But just because you're at the end of the process doesn't mean the tasks at the end of the process or the chores aren't more time consuming and resource intensive. So you see this time to restart here. This has nothing to do with the Windows 11 Installation Assistant. This is due to my impatience, not waiting for the other updates to finish. So I'm going to go ahead and say not no on this, and hopefully that won't affect our Windows 11 install. It might. But I'm going to hope for the best here. This is why you want to do one thing at a time, especially if we got Windows updates happening in the background while we're also trying to do another Windows update, kind of rolling the dice on whether or not that's going to work. But that's okay. It's fine. I'm okay with it. I can fix it if there's a problem. I'm curious to see how that's going to work. And we may not be around on live long enough for that to finish. The other thing I wanted to do was open up the bottom of this and then show you the insides. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to get to it today. I'll stick around and I'm going to answer your questions. And if we just happen to be around long enough for that to finish and reboot, then I'll open it up and we'll take a look at it. Other than that, if you have any questions related to the laptop or other technical questions, I'm happy to answer them, and I will answer them honestly. And what I feel would be the same answer I would give you if you were paying me for a consultation. I'm going to tell you exactly the same thing I tell my paying clients, where I am held accountable and responsible for the answers I give. That means you're not going to hear necessarily what you want to hear, but I'll tell you my opinion and my advisement and what a professional would do that's going to take accountability. If you want to do whatever you want to do, I'm not here to tell you not to. But if you're asking me, would I do it? Would I recommend a customer do it and take that on my reputation? That's the way I'm going to answer your questions. I wouldn't do it unless a customer, in some cases, when I say I'm not going to do it, it's what I mean to say. The customer can explain to me a reasoning why I would do it differently for them than everybody else. Because sometimes they have valid reasons. Most of the time they don't. Most of the time it's a misunderstanding or a concept that is different from reality. And it's my job to make sure that I have a happy customer. And I'm not going to set up false expectations. That's absolutely no way to sustain a business. I'd rather tell them what's going to save them money, what's going to be the most reliable thing, then tell them what they want to hear, only to blame me when it all goes sideways. If it goes sideways. I think what I'll do, let me move this up here. We do something a little different than I normally do. And instead of putting me in a corner, let's put this in the corner because there's not a whole lot to see, but at least we can keep an eye on it. Janet wants to know, when Windows 12 comes out, would you upgrade to Windows 12? My answer, since I started making videos in 2008 here on YouTube, my answer has always been the same. It's never changed. So if you're new here, and I don't recognize your name, so I assume you're new here, you can predict what my answer is going to be from my past. Anything that's brand new that just comes out, I don't recommend to customers. I don't care if it's an operating system. I don't care if it's a brand new car. Ford introduced the new Bronco. Do you think I'm going to buy a new Ford Bronco the first year? No, because it's expensive. There's people waiting to get it. Oh, we've got a mini PC. Is that a 470? Is that the, does it say it's a 470?
X1 Pro.
Yeah, but which chip does it have? Ooh, I didn't know I was getting presents today.
Yeah. Or like.
Well, we were running out of content, so I'm glad we've had a couple things show up today and yesterday. It sets us up for the next couple weeks.
Yeah. Take this upstairs and do the usual.
Back to work.
I didn't know this was actually. I think you mentioned it, but we don't know when.
Right. Yeah, we have stuff coming, but they didn't give us tracking information. Right. So does that mean it's going to arrive soon?
This came via a method that I was surprised about.
Probably because it shipped from one of the import couriers. So it's not FedEx or UPS. It's like some company like GoFo. Oh, it was FedEx. We see a lot from Asia coming in from DHL or from like mysterious trucks we've never seen. But it's clearly a delivery driver. It's not like some DoorDash driver. But yeah.
It's heavy.
Well, I mean, price per pound, you got to get your dollars worth.
That's a really heavy.
Do you know how much do you know how much money that computer is? That's the new AMD 470 Max. That's AMD's top of the line for consumer AI. Yeah, that's.
All right, I'm going to take it up and do my usual.
Well, that's good news. Essentially, anytime a new product comes out, that's where I was. You want to give that product time to mature. So in the case of like the Ford Bronco or some brand new, and granted, the Ford Bronco's been out a few years now. Now I would buy one. Any brand new product, and it doesn't matter if it's a car or if it's a computer or if it's software. That first year, they're going to work out all the kinks. So unless you want to pay more for the product, wait in line to get it, and then have to deal with all of the kinks that have to be worked out. I don't. I'm in business to make money. So if I'm billing the customer for selling them something that's not yet been polished, then it's coming out of my pocket. Or I'm going to have probably a pretty pissed off customer. So in general, when a brand new type of product comes out, not a refreshed product. In other words, Windows 11, I didn't start installing that and using it for at least about 8 months after it came out. I was still installing Windows 10. But when 22H2 and 23H2 and 24, those are just polishes. That's fine. I put those on instantly. So if and when there's a Windows 12, it'll be about a year before I would install it and support it, because I have to know how to support it. Just because something new came out doesn't mean I know how to use it. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what the problems are, and neither does the manufacturer. So we need to make sure, in order for me to stay in business and have happy customers, let other people go first. I really appreciate the work Lewis and Clark did. Okay? A lot of people died. But because of that, we were able to map out the rest of the United States. If you understand what Lewis and Clark sacrificed for the greater good, that is being a pioneer. That's what it means. So if you want to be first and you want to be a pioneer, you will pay more than everybody else. You will have more problems than everybody else. And everybody else appreciates the fact that you did that. Because you did, you pointed out problems, or people like you, that the manufacturer fixed. And then, like a year later, let's just say, right around a year later, now when I go to buy it, it's cheaper. There's no line to buy it. It's not constantly out of stock. And I'm probably going to not suffer any of those problems, because you've already done that for us and you paid more to do it. Thank you for that. So every time, whether it's Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, I always give them about a year before I can install those for clients. So I hope that answers your question. But I'm not telling you what you should do. You can do whatever you want. That's fine with me. In fact, if you want to be the first, I never want to be last, but I never want to be first. I always just want to be next. Michael Lavelle said, hey, about that bypass NRO, everyone I have seen say they use the wrong slash in the command line. That'll do it. I've seen people say when I open the command box, I can't type in it. Yeah, because you didn't click to focus on it. It's usually user error. But I'd have to get like a 25H2 version of Windows 11 Home that I didn't make with Rufus just to see. I can't wrap my head around why somebody is making a big deal out of nothing. I just think we're living in a time when people like to complain. It makes them feel righteous and like some kind of social justice warrior to correct the world's wrongs, when they're just shouting into an empty hall and no one's listening. And those of us who are listening are going, what are you talking about, man? And then they get angry. Okay, so you just made yourself angry because you made yourself angry at something else. Boy, that's just a bad attitude. I don't know what to do about it other than stay away from it because it's contagious, and protect yourself. Keep 6 feet away at all times. You're not going to change those people, but you can avoid them. Just look out for yourself. I can't make everybody have car insurance. That's why I have uninsured motorist. And it's required by law to have it. It's so common in Arizona for people to drive without insurance that it is the law to have uninsured motorist insurance. How crazy is that? It's the law to have insurance if you're going to drive a car on public roads. And if you're going to have insurance, you must also have uninsured motorist insurance as part of your policy. It would be illegal for you not to. But wait, isn't the insurance? It hurts my head. But you want it for you. Anyway, you don't want it because it's the law. You want it because you have something nice you want to protect. I don't have anything nice. Well, then I guess you probably don't have insurance on it. Which is why I have to have uninsured. All right, let's see. What's my take on quantum computing? Well, it's not my wheelhouse. It's not really what I do. I can tell you my understanding of it, which is fairly loose. I do believe that quantum computing has a potential that's going to change the way that we use computers. It's a new concept. It's a new way of thinking. And it's primarily being done by physicists and mathematicians who understand a level to which I would not even pretend to be on par with. And I'm glad they're doing that work, because if you look at some videos on YouTube from people that do a really good job explaining it, the people that work on it, not gossip, the actual people who do the work, explaining to you why they're doing it, it's very promising. I don't think we're close. I think it's going to be a long time. before that becomes like a regular thing. It's still in a research phase, but it's holding a lot of promise. And if that works, whatever you think of as a CPU, you can forget everything you learned. It changes everything. The way you measure speed and performance, it all goes out the window. It is such an entirely different approach that would be very difficult for most people to wrap their mind around it, because there's no basis for comparison. You have nothing to compare it to. It's not an upgraded computer. It's different. It's an entirely different reimagining of what a computer can be and can do. And it does it in an entirely different way that has to be measured in an entirely different manner. So it's pretty exciting if it's everything they make it out to be, and if we'll see that done in our lifetime, which is possible. I just don't know. But if there's news about quantum computing making progress, I'm interested in learning more about it, but it's still a long way away from anything you or I would ever have. It's sort of like asking me in 1974, what do I think about a home computer? There is no home computer. You mean those big things that take up entire buildings that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in 1970s money? I don't have room in my house for one. What would I do with it? Asking me about quantum computing and what I think about it is that same exact thing as in the 1970s or 1960s, when the only people who had computers were businesses that could afford them and could justify having them. You know, when I had my first computer in 1980, 81, people didn't understand why I had it. You have a computer? Why? Why? What do you do with it? Everyone. Yeah, they weren't impressed. Oh, you must be smart. You have a computer. No, they thought you were an idiot. What do you do with that? What's wrong with you? They didn't say what's wrong with you, but it certainly felt like they were saying it. Very rarely were people impressed. They were confused. That was 1981. So right now with quantum computing, I'd say we're sort of, that scenario kind of replays in my head where we're back to that again. But we'll see. I'm excited about it. I think it holds a lot of promise, and it completely redefines what we think as computing. It resets it with nothing for us to really reference other than the human brain. So if you understand the way the human brain works, you'll better understand quantum computing. But if you understand the way a computer works, it's harder to understand quantum computing. At least that's my understanding of it. Let me be clear. I'm not the right person to ask. I don't know much about it, other than what I've seen on YouTube from renowned experts, trusted sources. Not what I read on Reddit from strangers, but actual physicists. And you know, if you listen to like Brian Cox, what's the other guy's name? I want to call him Machu Picchu. I don't know his name. Really cool physicists that do a great job explaining complicated things in a very simple way. Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think, even talks a little bit about it, although he's more about astrophysicists. But, you know, the stars and the planets. But I think he's done a few. And these guys do an excellent job of explaining quantum computing, at least to a level that's like good enough. I'm sure they're oversimplifying it for understanding. But yeah, I'm super excited about it. I love the idea. Whether or not it becomes an actual usable reality, I'm hopeful. John Williams said, in 1974, I had an AMC Gremlin. Well, I'm jealous, because we couldn't afford an AMC Gremlin in 1974, but we could afford a 1974 Gremlin in 1982. So we did have one used that was 8 years old, and I learned how to drive in it. And it was a nice lime green color that everybody loves. I learned, for example, to make sure my driver's door is closed before turning out of a parking lot and almost falling out of the car when the door opened. I made a right turn, the door opened, and I used the steering wheel to hold on, which then put me up onto the curb and onto the sidewalk, which thankfully nobody was walking on at the time. And I had my driver's permit, so my stepfather was with me, trying to understand what just happened. I was just turning out of the parking lot. Those doors, you had to close them pretty hard, or they didn't latch, at least on the one we had. Good times. AMC Gremlin. Michio Kaku, says John Famler. Machu Picchu. That's what I said. I tease. I'm not bullying. I'm teasing. He seems like a really cool dude and very, very intelligent. And you'll see him constantly interacting with media, representing physics. And Brian Cox as well. I think Brian Cox, a British gentleman who's very, very good at it. And I would put these guys right up there with Stephen Hawking, except, Stephen Hawking would be their king. Nobody's better than Stephen Hawking. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's good, but he's not Carl Sagan. You know what I'm saying? No disrespect. But we got to understand the source of the information in order to gauge the value of the information. And that's the problem with the internet. A lot of the sources are random names. They're not even people. They could be bots. They could be AI. You don't know. Somebody won't expose their real name, but they want to tell you facts. They're probably not facts. We're living in a world now where it's best to assume if information you're getting is from an unfamiliar source, assume it's wrong until you can prove it's right, not the other way around. Welcome to the future. Can you imagine telling somebody in the 1950s, did you know in 2020s there's going to be a thing called the internet where everybody can talk to each other, but everybody will stop talking to each other in person. They're just going to look at their electronic device. That's never going to happen. That sounds terrible. I hope I'm dead by then. That's probably the response you're going to get. Because they always paint the future like, isn't it going to be wonderful with the flying cars and the little pill that's a whole meal? Yeah, it's not likely. If you want to wonder, gee, I wonder what life's going to be like in the year, 2026? Let's say, what's life going to be like in 2100? You're not going to want to know. I am sure it's going to be misery. You'll say, man, I hope I'm not alive when that future comes. Not, oh, those lucky people living in the future. It's always, not always, but oftentimes people think of the future. They think of how great things will be. And yeah, things are much, much nicer now. Disease and illness and things like that have gone down dramatically. Cures and medicine have gone up incredibly well. And other things have made very little progress. Things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and diabetes and all these other things still don't have cures for this stuff. And then Star Trek 4, gives this lady a pill and she grows a new kidney. Where's my future? I want that future. Speaking of that, there's a movie coming out that looks pretty interesting with Sam Rockwell in it called Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. And it looks like a very twisted take on a future where this guy from the future he's not a hero. He needs to save the planet. He knows that there's a certain group of people, if he picks these people correctly, that can prevent this dystopian future. But he doesn't know which people they are. So he has to keep going back and trying again. And he's by no means the best person for the job. It looks like it's potentially going to be a good movie that comes out next week. Speaking of dystopian futures. And Mara says we have an email. Right on. All right, let's check the email real quick here. Oh, our friend Mortant sends an Amazon gift card. Hello, Carey and Mara, everyone in the chat. Here's a contribution for the channel, and a very generous one. Wow, thank you so much to our friend Thomas, or Mortant in the chat room. it's because of viewers like you that we're able to continue to run this channel full time. And I cannot express in words how much that means to me. And I just can't thank you enough. And the fact that it's an Amazon gift card means there's no money taken out of it, like with Super Chats. Even PayPal will take like 3%. And the other thing is with YouTube, with Super Chats and even memberships, not only do they take 30%, they make us wait 30 to 60 days before they pass the money on to us. With the Amazon gift cards, we get them pretty much instantaneously, within 10 minutes. So whatever you send is exactly what we get, and we're probably going to spend it at Amazon anyway. So again, it's the viewers who make the content possible, particularly our supporters. And yeah, our friends that are regular contributors, like our good friend Buster, Mark Gaines, Lagrinia, Mortot. If you're wondering, how can he do this full time? How can he pay his bills? It's our community. That's how it's done. We'd love you to be a part of it. Even if you're not a member, just to be a part of the community, joining us here in the chat. We're both missing out if you're not doing that. I was driving in Idaho many years ago, and I saw a restaurant in the middle of nowhere, and painted across the side of the restaurant in giant words. As you're driving by, you can see it. It says, "If you don't eat here, we'll both starve." It's brilliant. Brilliant. Mortant says, "You're welcome." Yeah, I really appreciate that. Corey said, "The potential of AI solving problems we can't come up with, it's a huge precursor to human technological advancement." Yeah, well, I think that, you know, it'll have a downside to it as well, but I think the upside will far outweigh. It's like a hammer. You know, somebody invented a hammer, and the hammer can help you in life in so many ways, but it can also be used to hurt people or kill people. But I think the benefit of the hammer far outweighs the risk of the hammer being improperly used. And I think AI will be the same. I'm excited for it. Scott says, "In the year 2525, wait, is that Buck Rogers? In that amazing future? Did I eat at that restaurant? I did. That's it. You know, I laughed so hard, I said, I got to eat at this restaurant. And that's when they said, I ordered some food, maybe a burger, and they said, do you want JoJo potatoes with that? I'm sorry, do I want what? You don't know what JoJo potatoes are? I'm from Detroit, living in Phoenix. I've never heard the word JoJo potato in my life. But if it's a fried potato, count me in. Those are the only two things I remember about that experience. I don't think it was, did I say Iowa? I think it was Idaho, not Iowa. Pretty sure it was Idaho. It's probably like Pocatello, somewhere like that. It was a long time ago. It was in the late 90s. I was going to Yellowstone. The only time I've ever gone. I do hope to go back one day. Amazing national park. Once you go to Yellowstone, there's just no other national park worth going to. They're all disappointing. Yellowstone is in a class all of its own. Definitely deserves more than one visit. Oh, Jam Famler said it's a song. Well, what year did Buck Rogers, that 2525? What year did Buck Rogers take place? 2491. It's pretty close. Not bad for this old guy's memory. He just passed away recently, Gil Gerard, just a few weeks ago. Yep. And Catherine O'Hara passed away today, I think. You might remember her from Beetlejuice. A bunch of other stuff. That's just the one that comes to mind at the top of my head. Bajan guy said, my bad, I thought you had said Iowa. Hey, listen, at this point in my life, I might have thought Idaho and said Iowa, so not on you. I'd have to rewind the tape, but I meant to say Idaho. When we were driving through Iowa, there were posters, big billboards, for a restaurant chain that's like McDonald's called Made Right. Maybe I can pull it up. I never heard of it before. So I'm like, oh, there's a new experience, you know. Got to try this other fast food drink. Type in Made Right, Iowa. Okay, and what I want to show you, let's go over to the website, because I'm just on a road trip and I'm driving through Iowa. I'm not stopping in Iowa other than getting gas, using a bathroom, or maybe getting some fast food. So if I have an opportunity to try a new fast food chain I never heard of, that's about as exciting as it gets in my world. Let me show you the screen for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, because I'd never heard of this place. But I see billboards on the side of the road that say Made Right. And made is supposed to be M-A-D-E. And if you want to spell right correctly, it would be R-I-G-H-T. So my first thought was, how are they going to make it right if they don't know how to spell Made Right? Now I'm even more curious. Yeah, it was fast food. It wasn't any different than any other fast food. I didn't find anything special or magical or, what do they say, iconic or delicious. It was very generic, in my opinion. But make no mistake, they didn't spell it right, but apparently they're going to make it right. I don't know if they really understood what they were writing, because this sounds like a house cleaning service. I might see the world differently than most people. That's okay. Like, I got to eat at this place. I got to see what this is all about. And believe me, I had reservations. Don't expect it to be made right. That's how they spell Made Right. Scott mentions loose meat sandwich, Roseanne. Were the Connors supposed to be living in Iowa on the Roseanne show? I don't recall that line. CB Sis said that's just Midwest humor. Well, I guess it went over my head. Andy's talking about Yellowstone. Don't miss the Old Faithful Inn. The Old Faithful Inn is one of the most amazing buildings I've ever seen in my life. I didn't have the money to stay there. I stayed at a different hotel every night, depending on where in Yellowstone I was. That's how big Yellowstone is. Stayed in cabins in Mammoth. I stayed at the Yellowstone Hotel by Yellowstone Lake. And Old Faithful Inn, I walked through it and my jaw was just like, holy cow. And you think presidents in the past had stayed here. And the people who put this together using the local trees and stuff, nothing is cut straight. It looks like they took a branch that was pretty much close enough in angle and size to support like a staircase. And then there's another branch that is a completely random shape, like just the way nature made it. So nothing is uniform, but it's all cut precision, so the building's perfectly square, but it has a very rustic and, you know, really super high ceiling. And you're like, wow, they did this with logs, basically. And Mara says we've got another email. Good timing. So as I mentioned, we're watching the percentage complete. We got really quickly up to around the mid 70%, and then everything slowed down. This is what to expect. This is normal. And my best advice is just leave it be, and it will eventually get there, and it's likely going to be successful, and then we'll have 25H2. All right, let me check email. Oh, we have an Amazon gift card from our friend Barry. Barry said, it's been a while. I'm going to send this so you can spend money on Amazon so Bezos can sponsor another crap test movie. Well, you know, he can make all the movies he wants. You don't have to watch them. He says, one that I'll undoubtedly miss. Probably you and I both. Yeah, they just came out with the one with Jason Momoa and Dave Bautista, which I think is a great pairing. And I started to watch it, and I'm like, I've seen this movie like 15 times before with different actors. It's the same story, it's the same concept, it's the same jokes. And I love the actors. I wanted to love that movie. I got 20 minutes into it before I turned it off. It'll turn around anytime now. After 20 minutes, it was pretty clear to me this ain't turning around. Just a rehash of the same old story. Thank you, Bezos, I guess. So disappointing. Maybe that's the curse of getting older. Maybe if I was 12 years old and I hadn't seen this plot 15 times already over the years, it would have been fresh and new to me. And then maybe I would have loved it. Thank you, Barry. I'm in agreement with you on this, though. Sometimes there's a big disconnect between the people who have all the money and the rest of us, which explains all the bad Star Wars spin-offs and Star Trek spin-offs. And by the way, despite what you hear on the internet, the Star Trek Starfleet Academy is actually quite good. You wouldn't know that by looking on the internet. On the internet, all the nerds hate it. But if you actually talk to people in real life, I haven't met anybody who's watched it who doesn't like it. The only people I meet who don't like it are people I've never met online, making videos about how bad it is. Everything today is terrible. This is what happens when nerds get old. They suffer the same as the rest of us. Everything was better. It's all crap today. All those new Star Wars movies are crap. All the new Star Treks are crap. They've lost their way. No, sometimes they're not wrong, but sometimes it sounds like my grandfather. Everything was better. When I was growing up, it was better. The times were simpler. How much was that shirt? This shirt was 40 bucks. 40 bucks for a t-shirt. When I was your age, I could have bought that shirt for a nickel. Hey, Grandpa. How old are you? I'm 15. When I was your age, I was 14. Okay, Grandpa. It's just the older people. So the nerds are, the original Star Trek nerds are getting pretty old now. I'm just saying. And it goes along with everything else was better when we were younger. I get it. Just once, I want to hear one of them go, hey, this new show's actually pretty good. That would be so refreshing. So despite my disdain for Star Trek, what was the previous one? It was terrible. See, I can play that role too. Discovery. Oof. I really like Starfleet Academy, and you should decide for yourself. I'm not saying you're going to like it. What I'm saying is you, if you like Star Trek, should give Starfleet Academy a chance. And if you don't like it, at least it's your decision. But to not give it a chance because some nerd on the internet said it was junk should not rob you of an experience. That's what I have to say about that. Brown Vic said, made right is just a scrambled hamburger. Look, we have loose meat sandwiches in Michigan, in Detroit. That's a thing. They'll put it in a hot dog bun. But we didn't have like JoJo potatoes. That was Idaho. And we didn't have a chain of restaurants called Made Right. We had Burger Chef. And we used to eat at Burger Chef all the time. And we had Red Barn chicken. And it was all better than fast food today. This food today is all junk. It was better when I was younger. Cost a nickel. Janet wants to know, how about Boston Blue? I've never watched any of the Boston shows. So I'm not from Boston. I've never been to Massachusetts. I don't know. I know Dunkin' Donuts is from there, you know. I know Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and the Wahlbergs, you know. I know the people, the famous people from Boston. I know the Boston attitude. But I'm not a fan of lobster or clam chowder or any of the other kind of New England specialities. I'm from Detroit. So any of the shows that take place in Boston, any show that takes place in Boston, I pretty much don't have an interest in it. I think the one show that you wouldn't even know it was Boston was with William Shatner and James Spader. What was that show called? Boston Legal. Well, I guess you would know it's in Boston. It's in the title now that I said it out loud. But it's not like there's much Boston-esque about the show. What a fantastic show, by the way. One of my favorites. Boston Legal. Oh, yeah. Lots of guest stars. Lots of cameos. William Shatner plays a complete ass. It's wonderful. It's so good. I can't think of a single other show. Was Ally McBeal in Boston? Yeah, but like Boston, the New York cop shows, the CSI shows, I don't watch any of those. Not my speed. Mara's been into the new Fallout. I still haven't watched season 1 of Fallout. I want to watch it, but I don't know, just haven't been in the mood. So I'm collecting them. And when I'm in the mood, I'll watch both seasons, I guess, if I like them. We liked Murderbot. It was a little cheesy, but it was fun. We liked Pluribus. That's a really weird Twilight Zone kind of show. I guess it got renewed for season 2. And the actress won an award for that performance. What else do we watch? Mara likes a lot of the cooking shows. Stuff like Is It Cake? And Baking Championships. Hell's Kitchen. Gordon Ramsay's a riot. We don't watch a lot of TV. We are enjoying the new Starfleet Academy. Very much look forward to that. I really liked Cowboy Bebop from Netflix. Of course, they canceled it. Anything that's good. I love that show. One of my favorites. They did it really, really well. Trying to think of, you know, Rick and Morty, South Park. Those are staples. Beavis and Butthead, I love they brought that back. That's my speed. If it's going to be absurd, let's make it over the top. I'm just making conversation, hoping this thing just might finish in time for us to take the back off, but it's looking less and less like that's going to happen because we are now on 2 hours and 45 minutes of showtime. And, you know, I like to keep them about 2 hours. They usually go 2.5. Once they exceed 2.5, then I start overstaying my welcome. So we might just go ahead and wrap it up here, because this even after it's done, it's still going to need to reboot and still apply updates. So we'll do that, and we'll revisit this laptop. Yeah, maybe tomorrow. I'm not sure yet. If I don't have anything on the schedule, I might come back tomorrow just to kind of go over taking the back off, running Crystal Disk Mark, although I don't expect much because it's an N150, so your limitation is on your CPU. And maybe I'll just run some tests on it tonight and just be able to show you the results. So if I can't get to it tomorrow, then maybe Tuesday. So we're not done with this yet, but we have a nice overview. I think we've got a few mistakes. I don't think, and I certainly don't hope there are any other mistakes we're not found yet. Everything other than those minor little corrections looks really good. And I think with our feedback, Nemo will, as usual in the past, respond by correcting those issues, so anybody buying these in the future won't go through this. Morton said I have to go to a wedding fitting tomorrow. I hope I'll get home before then. I try not to step on the toes of our friends Doug Betts and Mike's unboxing, reviews, and how-to. They like to broadcast live and interact with their audience on Saturdays. So if I do a show tomorrow, it'll probably be later in the afternoon. Instead of like 1 o'clock, it might be 3 or 4 o'clock my time. So it'll be on later than normal. If I can do it, I will. But I don't want to broadcast at the same time as our good friend Doug Betts and Mike's unboxing. I want to make sure that I don't steal any of their audience when they're trying to interact with the audience. I don't want to compete in that level. If they were just releasing a video, who cares? But if they're live, I don't want to, we share a lot of the same audience members, and then it forces you guys to choose. I don't want to, I want you to have it all. So you can watch them and watch me and participate. That's the main thing, the participation. So for that reason, if I'm able to go live tomorrow, it'll probably be around 3 or 4 o'clock, I imagine. Morton said, I'll stay here until you're done. Thanks, Morton. William Lynn said, in San Jose, California, there's a place called Campus Burgers where you can get a smash burger for $1.99. Can I tell you what I don't understand about smash burgers? When I was growing up, here we go. Wendy's used to run a commercial. Where's the beef? The idea was that the hamburger joints were putting on little tiny thin pieces of meat, and where's the beef? I ordered a hamburger, where's the beef? The last thing I would think anybody would want is a burger that's smashed. And the fact they do that to chicken, why? I like this as dry and thin and tasteless as possible. Pretty much what I want is I'd like you to put a salad on a bun, and I'd like to flavor it with some meat. Like, for me, my personal preference, I want a burger about this thick. Let's start there. Well, you can get multiple smash burgers and stack them. How about one burger that's thick? So when I see a place that says smash burger, I'm not interested. If I wanted beef jerky, I'd go get a bag of beef jerky. That's just how I was raised. Thick burger, or it's not a burger. Where's the beef? All right. But hey, you know, to each their own. I have no problem with it. You can have mine. Andy mentions barefoot through the snow. Hey, we liked it. David Graham said he's liking the new Star Trek Starfleet Academy show. See? See? You'd think looking at YouTube videos, nobody likes this show. They want you to believe that. I don't know why. But find me something they do like. That's the challenge. I'm sure there's something they like. I don't know what it is. They must have a video where they talked about how great something was. And I probably thought it was crap. That's okay. They're allowed. Edward Bass says, talk about Quantum. Remember the TV show Quantum Leap? I never watched. There were two shows on about that time that were kind of the same thing. One was Quantum Leap with Dean Cain, who I only know from the movie Dune. Right? Am I thinking about that right? And the other one that I never even, that was with, I never watched it. Was it? There's two guys that I always confuse. Jason Bateman, who looks and sounds like the guy that was in the show. So I can't think of the guy's name and I can't think of the show's name. Give me a second, I'll pull it up. God, the guy looks just like Jason Bateman. I always confuse them. Come on, Carey, what's his name? I wonder if somebody in the chat's going to get it before I get it. Yes, Scott Bakula, but didn't Scott Bakula, like Charlie's Angels, they had Charlie. Didn't Scott Bakula report to this guy, Dean Cain? Xander Vanderhoven said, I was a Babylon 5 fan. Yeah, so was I. Absolutely. Love Babylon 5. Am I talking about the show Sliders? That is exactly the show I was thinking of. It's not Jason Bateman. It's, God, the guy looks just like him. Jerry O'Connell. You put Jerry O'Connell and Jason Bateman side by side. Tell me who's who. Anyway, Sliders looked like it was a good show. I never saw one episode of it. I didn't even know about it. I think at the time when it aired, I didn't know about it. There are certain shows that gained a following and a popularity that I could not get behind. Like, I just thought they were ridiculous. A lot of the space shows at that time had a lot of puppets. And many of my friends are like, how can you not like the show? And I'm like, how can you watch its puppets? I can't think of the names of those either. It's not a good time for me to be thinking of this stuff. But boy, did they have a following, these shows, these sci-fi shows. I never watched Stargate. I never even saw the movie, but it's got James Spader in it. I should like it. I want to watch it. Haven't watched it. Never watched any of the shows. What was the sci-fi show with all the puppets that everybody loved? Oh, Dean Stockwell. Yes, Dean Stockwell, not Dean Cain. Dean Cain is Superman. Dean Stockwell was in the movie Dune. He played Dr. Yui. Yeah, that's the way I remember Quantum Leap. I don't remember it for Scott Bakula. I also didn't like Star Trek Enterprise because it's terrible. Everything was better when I was younger. I seriously did not. Just not a Scott Bakula fan, I guess. What is the cult sci-fi show with the puppets? Farscape. That's what I was trying to think of. Ah, Mara loves Farscape. Good friend of mine I've known most of my life loves Farscape. I don't know anybody except myself who does not like Farscape. How can you possibly get into this? This is ridiculous. How dare I? It's blasphemy. Space opera with puppets. And there was a short-lived show I love that was canceled that probably nobody saw. I think it was called Space Pirates? Space Rangers. Space Rangers. And Space Rangers had Linda Hunt, also from the movie Dune. You might find a theme here. Big Kyle MacLachlan fan. You ever see The Hidden? Great movie. Anyway, Kyle MacLachlan's not in this, but Linda Hunt was in Space Rangers. And another guy who recently died, CareyHolzman Tagawa, is an Asian guy that played a lot of kind of stereotypical Asian roles as kind of a David Carradine kind of fighter. And he shares my first name. So, of course, anything he was in, I was on board with it. And I thought it was just a fun show. It was silly, but it was fun. And I think it lasted like 6 episodes and it was done. I'm like, oh man, everything I like gets canceled. It was so sad to hear that he passed just maybe 2 months ago. If you look at the cast of the movie, the David Lynch movie Dune from 1984, was it 84? Dean Stockwell, Linda Hunt, Kyle MacLachlan, Patrick Stewart. The older that movie gets, the better it gets. It's very strange. Horrible, horrible movie in 1984, or whatever year that was. Same exact movie in 2026. It's actually pretty good. It got better with age. It's very strange. Was it William Hurt is in that movie as well? A lot of people that went on to do some amazing work in Hollywood. Jerry O'Connell was in Stand By Me. I never saw Stand By Me. That's a Stephen King movie, isn't it? It's Sean Astin and Corey Feldman. I like all these guys. I just never saw that movie. What, they're walking on some train tracks and they find a dead body? That's all I know. Okay. Did I ever watch Terrahawks? I've never heard of Terrahawks. Rupin said I like Buck Rogers too. It was silly, but for fun. Yeah, Buck Rogers was great, and Battlestar Galactica. Although the remake, oh, what a great show. Oh man, the remake of Battlestar Galactica was insanely good. And Mara's like, I don't know how you can watch this crap. And I'm like, you watch Farscape. Don't talk to me. This is amazing. Flash Gordon. I was too young. Flash Gordon. I never saw Flash Gordon. The movie with Sam Shepard, but not the TV show. Yeah, Dean Cain that was in Superman. His brother is in the band Journey, if I'm not mistaken. Dean Cain. Research. Brother Journey. Dean Cain's older brother, Roger Cain, is a musician and composer who has maintained a lower profile compared to his actor brother. Roger. Wait, the musician Jonathan Cain of the band Journey is not related to Dean Cain. Oh, well, I was half right. There's too many Cains. The Thunderbirds had marionettes, and I did not watch the Thunderbirds. I don't know why anybody would. It seems silly, but it didn't air when I was a child, and maybe if it would have, I would have liked it when I was 5 years old. The shows I watched when I was 5 years old were all reruns. Speed Racer, Johnny Sacco and his flying robot, Godzilla versus whatever. Some of those were in black and white, some were in color. Ultraman, UFO, Lost in Space, I Love Lucy, The Brady Bunch, cartoons on Saturdays. Morning, Ralph. Morning, Sam. That's how I learned about classical music, by watching Warner Brothers cartoons. Trying to remember what other shows I was loyal to back in the early 1970s. Wasn't much to choose from. I didn't like Electric, what was it called? That show I would turn off. It was like for real little kids. I watched a lot of Japanese imported shows that were made in the late 60s that re-aired in the 70s. So I didn't get to watch them when they were new, but they played Speed Racer all the time and Ultraman and all the Godzilla movies. Yeah. That was what my parents did to raise me. They put me in front of the TV and said, leave us alone. Not literally, but figuratively. And I was fine with it. All right, yeah, this is just going to take a long time. So we've already hit the 3-hour mark here. We might have just surpassed it. So we'll go ahead and stop here. We'll let this finish. I'll continue to update it off camera, and then I'll run some benchmarks on it. I mean, to run Cinebench on this is silly, but we can see how it does. What do we care? I'll show you the results. I'll show you the benchmark on the enclosed SSD, but again, that's not going to be a rocket ship. Nothing about this system should you expect outrageous performance. What you should be looking for is outrageous value for what you're paying. Like, I can't believe you're getting that much for that little, because you can always have more so long as you're willing to pay more. So if we keep our perspective, I think you should be very impressed. Even if it's not right for you, I don't think you can deny. That's a hell of a deal to try and beat. If I run across any other things that I find aren't to my standard, I'll let you know. And then when we follow up, we'll take the back off. I'll save that for live. We'll take the back off. They're very easy to open up. It's probably very similar on the inside as very many other Nemo models we've already looked at, but I do expect it should be a little bit different, like where things are located and arranged. But how we get into it, it's pretty much the same housing we're used to. And the internals are going to be very similar, but different enough to justify a quick look in there. If you have any questions about the unit, leave them in the comments, and I will find out what I can to get your answers and include that in the follow-up video as well. So if you're not watching live and you didn't get to interact with me, you have that opportunity in the comments. Corey said, are you saying we're far off and AI is in its infancy, but in 30 years it'll be extraordinary? No, quantum computing and AI, you're conflating. What I'm talking about is way in the future is quantum computing. AI is right now, and AI is advancing very quickly. It won't be 30 years, it'll be 3 years. Like, it's going to evolve very quickly. And it'll continue to evolve after that, but you're already using it in your life, you don't even realize it. It's so seamless and integrated that when AI is involved in things, more times than not, you don't realize it. So it's still got a long way to go, but it's evolving very, very fast. On the quantum computing side, it's got a long way to go, and it's not evolving near as fast, but Yeah, don't confuse quantum computing and AI. These are two very different things. He says, oh, no, I'm talking to somebody else in the chat. It's all good. All good. Sorry about that. Thought you were talking to me. Andy says, which nano KVM did you just get? The folks over at SciPede released a new front and back and button on the new nano KVM. It's a revision of the nano KVM Pro. They don't call it a revision. I wish they would. But if you go to Amazon, or you know what, let's just go to SciPede. And let me share the screen with you here. So they make a lot of like development kits on project stuff. And the nano KVM that you and I have, Andy, is the original, which has a metal front, a metal body, a metal back, and a silver colored rotating dial. They found that the metal front, the metal back were causing some Wi-Fi interference issues. That's why yours may be missing a screw on the bottom of a short circuit that they didn't realize when they developed it. So they went back to the drawing board and redesigned the housing to give it a plastic face. They made the button solid matte black, and the back of it, which you can't see in this photo. If we scroll down, maybe not. Let's see. Remote desktop, remote install. I guess we go to the store, and we'll go to AliExpress, because that's pretty much the only place you can buy it. This is the new design. So even though the front looks exactly the same, it's plastic instead of metal. And the back, once again, they're not showing the back, but the plate on the back, on the one you and I have, is metal. This plate is plastic. And the dial, I think, looks a lot better being in matte black rather than silver. And I emailed them and said, when are these available? And they said, well, they're available now, but only from AliExpress. They're not on Amazon yet. And then they've got the Chinese New Year coming up, and it'll be after that. It'll probably be March before we see them on Amazon. So I said, okay, well, how can I get one? And they said, well, you'll have to order it from AliExpress. But if you search on AliExpress, there's a bunch of people selling them. I don't want to just buy it from anyone. I want to buy it directly from SciPede. So what I did is I went to the SciPede website, and then I went to their store. Now, I don't know what Taobao is. I've never bought from them, but I have bought from AliExpress. So I go to AliExpress, and then there's the Nano KVM Pro, right? And I want to buy that. So I got to go to the category, go all the products they sell, click on Nano KVM. And you see how it says this is $19.70, and it shows a picture of the Nanos? This is not for the Nanos. In AliExpress, they always do this. This is the little light kit. But if you click on it, you'll have these options. And you'll see, if I can go back, come on. Not gonna let me do it? Nothing is responding right now. Choose where you want to save, cancel, close. You see these options, and as I click on the option down here, it tells me what it is, and then the price changes. And the very last one is the one I'm interested in. So $104.70, and that's the desktop version with Wi-Fi. The other version has PoE, but then what's the point of having Wi-Fi? So if you want to spend $10 more for the fully loaded version, you can. But here's the thing that just kills me. This has 4K video output. It's a faster processor. It's got the screen that can be used as a monitor. This thing is filled with modern features. And the shipping is like $10 more. So your cost on this is about $115. And I got it in a week from China, just arrived today. All the internals are the same as what you have. So it's just mostly an enclosure change. But I do wish they would call it Nano KVM Revision 2 or version 2, something. Otherwise, how do you know which one you're going to get in the mail? That's why I didn't want to order it from anybody but from SciPy. And if you just search for Nano KVM Pro on AliExpress, you'll get a bunch of traders, third-party sellers, which I don't want to buy from. Also, a lot of them charge more money. But what kills me is if you go to Amazon and you look at any other KVM, like a Jet KVM, it's the same price with nowhere near the same capabilities. If you want one that has the same capabilities, then you'd want the GLINet Comet Pro. And it's normally like $180. They've got it on sale for only $50 or $40 more. It's twice as big, nowhere near as capable, nowhere near as expandable, nowhere near as flexible. It's just, for me, a cheap knockoff that they want to charge $40 more for. It's not a bad device. It's just compared to the Nano KVM Pro, the Nano KVM Pro does so much more. It's so much more flexible. It's physically smaller, and it does more, and it costs significantly less. So if GLINet brings their price down to $100, that would make more sense to me. But to pay more to get less, why would you do that? And even if you look at other KVMs, IP KVMs, it's pretty unlikely you're going to find one that's much less expensive compared to that Nano KVM Pro. So this is a very limited device. It costs less, but it also does a lot less. This one does less, and it costs darn near the same. You keep going through these. This one's $70, and it does less, and it's, yeah, $30, $40 cheaper. That's significant if you don't need all the added features like 4K pass-through and Wi-Fi. But it's, you know, the original generation of device. It's not the latest. And as we scroll through the different options, look at the prices. And the more you look at those prices, the better the Nano KVM Pro looks every day. You see here at $149 plus $13 shipping for the old version with the silver button. Why would I buy that? Now, I don't have any Wi-Fi problems with my Nano KVM Pro. Never have. But I still want the new version anyway. I have a problem. I don't know what to tell you. I got to have it. I just think it's cool. And all that time, by the way, our install went up in percent. It's going to be a while. So yeah, we'll take a look at it later. I'll unbox it and share that experience. It should just be the same thing. Just different house. Different body on the front, back, and knob. Other than that, it's the same. And he says, yeah, his has the missing screw. Yeah. All right, guys, that'll wrap it up for today. Thank you again for hanging out. It's a fun Friday. Thank you to the folks at Nemo for sending the laptop for us to review. And we will follow up with it as promised. And overall, I've got to say, I can't believe it sells this cheap. I cannot believe you can buy a whole laptop with the screen, the speakers, the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, the keyboard, the trackpad, the CPU, motherboard, the cooler, the RAM, and the SSD. That's insane. But again, it's not like the AI 470 we were talking about, right? That's a whole different scenario. It's a whole lot of money. But not everybody needs that. I think the vast majority of computer users are going to be just fine with something like this, unless they're gamers or they have very specific needs. But they would probably already know that. For the rest of us,
Why spend more if you don't have to? Especially if the company's going to stand behind it for the 2-year warranty, which even laptops that cost 3 times more won't do. But decide for yourself. The links for the laptop are in the video notes below the video. The links for VIP-URCD keys are there as well. Thank you to Mara for all the work she does in the background, doing all of the administrative tasks that this channel requires, from the thumbnail setup, the video descriptions, and answering your emails. If you want to email us, let me put the email address right up here on the screen because we love hearing from you. That's our email address right there. And if you have any questions, if you want to inquire about purchasing something, reach out to us privately. We don't talk about that stuff publicly. But if you have a problem you need some help with, sometimes these problems can take a while to work out. We don't want to monopolize an entire live show, but we will help you offline. We're happy to. If you have an experience with a product, be it good one or bad experience, we want to hear from you. Share your experience with us. We love hearing from people who've personally had experiences they want to share. And that will wrap it up for us for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, of course, to Buster. Thank you to Mortant. Thank you to Barry. Thank you to Mark Gaines. Thank you to all the members. Without these guys, I'm telling you, this wouldn't be a full-time job. I'd be a part-time, if that, content creator. So I'd be making a lot less content, and the variety of content, of course, would also be significantly reduced. And it's our community and our supporters that make these videos happen. And thank everybody, all of you, for being here and joining us for today's video and interacting with myself and each other, because really that's where this channel is so much different than most others, is the encouragement to get the viewers involved while we're live. I love that. So thank you for watching. We'll be back as soon as possible. I'm going to try and get back tomorrow with a follow-up on this, but if I can't, it'll probably be Tuesday because we have other things scheduled on Sunday and Monday already. That'll be it for today. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.